I ain't tryna bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. One thing I taught myself to do, no matter the problem, refuse to lose. So, how you want it, man? You can choose. If you can't take the heat, don't light the fuse. See, I walk in slow and ignite the room. Like fire, everything I touch, I consume. I'm getting up while y'all just snooze. While you make breakfast, man, I'm on the move. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. In me I trust, yeah, I smell like success, this Elon Musk, huh? Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop cause the top just ain't enough, huh? I ain't never gay, no, I ain't scamming, you know black men don't blush, huh? Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life. Won't you come and see what it's like, living by the rules that you write. You ain't know those lavish delights, now you had no back in sight. All the little lies you recite, just makes all the savage unite. Usually I'm very polite, but I'ma get savage tonight. Even when a dog being nice, every single dog gonna bite. You might think I'm wrong, but I'm right. Just let it get a strong appetite. I'ma let it breathe just a little, give it to you strong, heavy metal. I don't make a sound when I strike. You better just run for your life. Run for your life.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardinellis. Today, I'm joined in the studio by none other than Kwaku L and via Zoom. Kwaku, we're starting, bro. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm fixing one thing real quick.
All right. Well, anyway, we're joined via Zoom by none other than Ethan Fawcett, as well as by Luke Hansen. Editors and writers for Ward Radio News. And we are going to be reacting to some very unfortunate, should be trusted information outlets in the American zeitgeist, both the Salt Lake Tribune as well as the Joe Rogan Experience. We got some fake news from some fake experts here. We'll specifically be addressing some comments about Joseph Smith and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by Wes Huff. And I got to tell you, my heart breaks. I subscribe to Wes Huff. Joe Rogan, I get it. He's come around on a lot of things. He had a lot of bad thoughts on Catholicism. He had a lot of bad thoughts on Christianity. And now, according to Jordan Peterson, he's got, quote, 1 foot in the Christian pool. There's a lot of people that have been catching up and learning that, Christians aren't so bad. I'm sure Joe Rogan's going to come around, but Joe Rogan also is not masquerading as a supposed expert, a PhD, or an academic on the subject. Meanwhile, characters such as Mike Winger and Wes Huff just keep recycling old tropes, and it's getting really old. But anyway, we're going to address these, and we are going to respond to them and just react, and also just have a lot of fun, because that's what we do here in the Ward Radio Wigwam. Before you get started, got a couple of super chats. Chats we're going to address. Thank you, everybody that is contributing in the chat. And also, thanks to everybody that purchased the new line of merch. all of those shirts went out. And today we just got our first order from Alaska, which is pretty fun. That person received a free beanie because I figured they're in Alaska. They could use a beanie. So anyway, Luke, Ethan, Kwaku,
Yes.
which one do you want to start out with? Joe Rogan or the Salt Lake Tribune? Which one do you want to do first?
Well, Ethan did just publish
Joe
in
Rogan.
Ward Radio News a review of everything Peggy Fletcher Stack and the Salt Lake Tribune and BYU. So
Okay,
could
cool.
start
We'll
with
go
that
there.
while it's fresh on the mind.
Then you just tell us what's going on with Peggy Fletcher Stack in the Salt Lake Tribune. You want to watch the video? Take it away, my man. Tell us what we're going to do.
You want to do it, Ethan?
The video I think is too good to pass up, so I think that's worthwhile.
Well, do we want to do the story and then the video's kind of like the
that
fun
makes
little
sense.
palate
So
cleanser at the end?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do an initial recap, I suppose. So essentially, what's going on is Peggy Fletcher Stack and Salt Lake Tribune. They published an article, which at first glance kind of got a lot of people confused because they're saying, "Oh, the church has this policy making it so that professors have to have a testimony of certain things in order to be employed at BYU." That's not entirely accurate. What it was actually about was reviewing a policy that has already been in place for the last like 2.5 years or so. It's been there since 2022. And the policy essentially is saying that when an employee of the church education system does their ecclesiastical interview, which they have to get annually or at least when they're first hired or something like that, there is a question where it specifically says, basically, do you support any views or ideologies that are contrary to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its teachings? And then it specifically adds, including the doctrine on marriage, family, and gender. And so that specific part right there, obviously, was concerning to a number of the different faculty at BYU who find themselves very much on the more socially progressive side of that issue. And so what Peggy Fletcher Stack's article does is it goes through and it highlights the experiences and stories of professors who are currently at BYU but maybe don't want to talk publicly, so they talk like through Peggy Fletcher Stack, but also professors that have since left BYU either to go work at another university or to just retire because they just don't want to deal with it anymore. And so that's essentially what the article is about, and then trying to make claims about how it's been really harmful for people. But the number one bad guy in the article from the Tribune's perspective appears to be Elder Clark G. Gilbert, who's the Church Education Commissioner.
Okay. And I mean, I have got to, this is wild. When you pull up this article, okay, I'm actually just going to put it on the string right here. Like, I love how, okay, so I don't like it because nobody likes it when their faith is besmirched, especially, with old tropes and lies or false pretenses. But also, some of it kind of like I appreciate this disinformation because it is so easy to debunk. It's all old God makers tropes with Wes Huff. So when we actually show people the real quotes or we show people the real doctrine that no, we don't walk around saying, oh, you get your own planet. They so easily realize they've been lied to and they convert. So yes, they are doing us kind of a backdoor favor. It's a very annoying one, but whatever. And the Salt Lake Tribune, the exact same way. Like they almost kind of make us, I don't want to say cool, but like, look at this article. I mean, it's called Dark Days. New rules have BYU professors running scared. And then they have this looming black and white photograph of like, I don't know, that looks like the administration building.
Yeah, that's the administration building.
Making
with
it
a
look
dark silhouette entering the
it's-
empty hallways.
like way to make the most boring and banal administration building in the world look like Soviet headquarters. And like you're going to talk to Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin, yourself or himself when you go to...
I feel complicated here because as someone who didn't really like their time at BYU, I'm not interested in defending BYU, but as someone who also doesn't like Peggy Fletcher Stack, I kind of let him fight. Let them fight. Anyone who emails you, hey, I've got this horrible slam story I'm writing about you that I've got to release in 5 minutes. Do you have a quote that you'd like to defend yourself on before we spread lies to the whole state about you? Any journalist who operates that way, like my deadline is in 2 minutes. Would you like to say you didn't beat your wife? Like I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan of Peggy Fletcher Stack and what she's done to me and my friends. I got to go with Clark Gilbert here. Clark Gilbert's done nothing to me.
Or go with BYU. So actually, I would say
no, Clark.
Well, no, he's the area authority that's over BYU, right?
I know, but I'm separating the two because BYU has annoyed me, but Clark Gilbert hasn't.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yes. Team Clark Gilbert.
Elder Gilbert, he comes off pretty based with all of this, honestly. Yeah.
Well, so all of us have dealt with Peggy Fletcher Stack right here, and this is anecdotal. This is not a scientific survey, all right? But just to start things out, Kwaku, is she honest or is she dishonest?
She's weaselly. She's technically honest.
Has she lied to you? Oh, she's technically honest. You would say
she's technically honest, but she's snaky and will figure out. We'll use words that are misleading to damage the reputation of anybody she slightly dislikes. And it seems like she's always been that way. She has no problem putting out things that aren't true, and but are technically true. Like technically, we just grabbed a screenshot from This Is the Show and said you were in the show. We didn't say this was you, even though it's Parker Kelly, and they're saying it's you. Like technically, like
she has 7 factual errors in the article.
Yeah, and no matter how many times you say this is false, you published a lie.
Like it is factually false. Like you have a picture.
She will never correct it because she doesn't care. Because So
Okay, you guys, have you had personal interactions with her?
Thankfully, no. Actually.
Okay, cool. Yes.
Not yet. They did finally mention the Cougar Chronicle in one of their articles, but other than that, not really. I love how this article starts, though. It says it's just kind of all the tropes. Like you've got to just run through the list of tropes every time. So how does this article start, do you think? Just a random guess. What topic could they possibly start on?
I am guessing, I haven't read it yet, but I would say at the deeply controversial, because they always got to throw in controversial, at the deeply controversial right-wing religious, white supremacist, misogynistic, one of those is going to be used.
You actually got it.
Did I get it? Okay.
Midway through Jeffrey R. Holland's hotly disputed musket speech, in which he admonished Brigham Young University's faculty to take a metaphorical arms in defense of the faith's opposition to same-sex marriage, the Latter-day Saint apostle pointed to a less familiar face, Clark Gilbert, and then on it goes.
Oh, man. Right
Clark
there.
Gilbert is the bad guy in this article.
Yes, he's the baddie.
Okay, so let's watch this video. Because a picture speaks 1,000 words, and a video, this is just awesome. Like, I'm glad to see the Salt Lake Tribune just didn't get killed with the rest of news media, and that Utah still has its own newspaper. But the fact they have to resort to like this kind of bottom dredging it's a little bit. It's disappointing. They have to resort to dishonesty, and nobody's primaried Peggy Fletcher Stack yet.
I want to throw a water balloon at Peggy Fletcher Stack. I want to throw a water balloon because it won't hurt, and technically by the time she gets to the cops to report the damage, the water's dried up.
It would be dry. That's okay. We do not endorse water ballooning.
I do.
On water.
And see,
if you see Peggy Fletcher Stack, you hit her in the face with a water balloon.
Good job getting clipped, bro. Good job. So anyway, look at this. This is what has been said about us by the Tribune, or about BYU by the Tribune. I'm gonna pull this up in the reaction window and just let her rip.
Some of the faculty that I talked to called it Clark Gilbert's black box. It says, the form says you have to support church doctrine. You can't oppose church doctrine. Some of these things are not doctrine, and some of these things are open to interpretation, and it's frankly not clear what.
Okay, so what are we talking about? Are we talking about a life and death situation? Is there a BYU student on death
we've gotta
row?
laugh a little bit about
Okay.
the security cameras, the like dark footage of like security cameras looking over BYU. Did you get to that part yet in the video?
No, we're just on Peggy talking about
It's like
how
it's one of the first shots. Oh, you got to keep going.
she
over
barely
if you haven't
survived
seen it yet.
Gallipoli. All right. So anyway, here we
It's
go.
at 13 seconds.
Okay. Oh no. Yeah, we already passed 13 seconds. Yeah, there are the security cameras. Here she keeps going.
What people did wrong.
Salt
I'm
Lake
writing about
Tribune.
Brigham Young University and its efforts to have faculty all follow a particular set of behavioral standards that even go beyond the church's own standards.
What is this? Is it
Okay.
ritual sodomy? Is it
So
like
basically-
freaking? Are we
basically-
slaughtering animals?
Did you say ritual sodomy?
Yeah, because the way this music is
what
going,
even is that?
there's a vampire
Don't worry
drinking
about it.
somebody's blood somewhere. I don't know what it is, but like this with this deep dark music, that screwy religious figure your head, the violins, and her saying just this church. It's portrayed, man. This is like the opening of Conclave. Man, it's the opening of Conclave.
It's
So-
literally just that they want the professors to support the church's doctrine on marriage and the family.
Oh,
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Yep. That's basically it.
And what does support
and so
mean?
they kind of paint it as like, well, look, this one progressive professor guy says the church's doctrine allows for gay marriages, maybe. And so the church is asking professors to believe something beyond its own doctrine. And it's like, okay, where did you get that doctrine from? The church. Okay. And who's the one telling you to, oh, it's the church. Okay. So I'm not understanding the, what's the disconnect here?
So
And
like if
so
I
in the article, there's a couple of places in the article where these professors who like felt scared and they left to go to another university, they're like, I felt like I was being judged, like somebody else was deciding what my spirituality was. I'm like, how could you do that? And okay, fine.
That's what prognos do to us all the time.
Your employer is the one that sets the standard. If I'm working for a conservative institution, which I do, it's my employer's prerogative to make the determination if my conservatism lines up with the mission that they're trying to spread. I can't just, like, if I get fired or I get pushed out for supporting Kamala Harris instead of Donald Trump, it's completely illogical for me to come back and say, why are they determining my conservatism? Don't they understand that I believe that I'm conservative? So why'd they kick me out? Like, no.
Here's the part that I
The institution
think-
that hires you gets to decide what their criteria are. And that's basically what this whole article is freaking out about. It's like BYU thinks it gets to decide the criteria for its employees. Can you believe that?
So here's
Please
the
be outraged now.
So here's the part of the article that I just want to make sure we show the receipts here. The article says, then in 2022 came a new employment contract, a sort of, quote, loyalty oath in which faculty members, incoming and current, were expected to attest to their support of the church's position on marriage, family, and gender. To many like Bergman, who felt pressured to agree, it went beyond the church's own stance and seemed to carry an implicit threat. You can't advance if you don't sign off. Okay, so my point.
wait till she figures out about the temple.
Yeah.
Youth.
Well, and that's one of the arguments that she makes is she's like, well, this goes beyond the temple recommend interview questions.
Oh.
And I think every single normal Latter-day Saint looks at that and says, no, that's just a more specific.
Or how about
version
we've
of the
normalized
temple
people
recommend interview
lying
question.
during their temple recommend interviews so badly, we've created a culture in which the temple recommend interview seems to not actually matter. So BYU actually steps up and says, okay, we want to make sure that you're actually what's like, but look at this sentence though. Like this is the word gobbledygook you're allowed to say in modern media. Then in 2022 came a new employment contract where faculty members of a church's university were expected to attest to their support of the church's position on X. So if I join the military for, I don't know, capitalist America, I'm not allowed to be a Soviet spy that holds anti-capitalist communist views and wants to sell our secrets to the Eastern Bloc. Like, Is that so crazy that I have to go in and when I join the military, say, no, I'm actually pro-American. I'm a loyal citizen. Wouldn't it make sense that if I'm teaching at a Catholic university that like the Pope's like, okay, well, if you're teaching all of our Catholic kids about Catholicism, like you believe Catholicism and our stance on, I don't know, the Immaculate Conception, right? This is completely normal stuff.
You know what this is?
What?
Can you guys? I don't know if you guys can see through it, but the Salt Lake Tribune and Utah media knows one way they can always get clicks and money is putting anything with BYU and LGBT in the same headline. They know that, right? Mm-hmm. And it's been about, a year and a half since they've had a good headline. So what she's doing right now is she's rainbow chasing. What she's doing is she's literally like, can you believe the professors are having to say they believe in the church that they work for? Gays, aren't you upset by this? Look, aren't you mad? Look what they're doing. I don't know one gay person who gives a damn about this article or any of this. They do not care because you think they're going to take a time out of their day. Can you believe what BYU just did to the LGBT community? What? They're making the professors, say they believe in the church. What else? That's it. You called me for that? Like, that's literally what this is. It's fake. She is trying to rile up anger among an already traumatized group so she can get clicks. This is offensive in multiple different ways. What she's writing isn't offensive, but the fact that she's trying to rile up two different groups to be upset so she can take away the money that's clearly what this is. No action. No one like if she discovered in the interview that Clark Gilbert was sitting down with professors saying, all right, now, this is a paddle. If you see an apostate on campus, spank them with the paddle. Whoa! They're encouraging violence with the faculty. You got a story. This is nothing. Like this is like when they tried to get black people to be mad at Joe Rogan. Remember that when they tried to they're like, here's a video from Joe Rogan 12 years ago where he slipped up in a joke and said the N-word. Aren't you guys mad? And no one cared. Not one black person cared. Like, what? It's Joe Rogan. The Fear Factor guy's funny. Who cares? We do anyway. It is obvious what it is. This is total manipulation of both sides because she wants money.
Well, this is why I care.
Like anti-Mormons tend to just want to traffic in the misery of others.
Yeah.
We should make like a list of rules of the things that they do so we can point to them every time they do it.
Are you referencing anti-Mormon rule number 11? That they do not alleviate the suffering of protected classes or minorities, but they traffic in human misery instead? Yes.
But Cardin, church founder Joseph Smith famously taught the best way to manage people was to teach them correct principles and let them govern themselves, and approach the faith's latest For Strength of Youth booklet follows, along with its new Design It Yourself ministering program. So that means that BYU professors should be paid with tithing money to believe whatever they want to.
Well, this
obviously she proved it.
Okay, but
it's an airtight case.
This is the only thing I really want to say is this is why progmos are so caustic and toxic in our society. Because this is really a nothing burger. All this is a bureaucratic stepping stone, a box that has to be checked, that is a necessary and normal box. A job interview is not an inquisition, but to somebody who has social anxiety, if one of their life coaches said, oh, that boss over there, he's really mean, he's making you interview. It's actually not, something that's completely necessary. There's lots of people that get jobs without interviews, but he's making you interview because he really doesn't like you. And bosses are bad people. You're going to trip out that dude that has social anxiety, making him think that he's going into a bad experience. I'm sick and tired of progressive Mormons twisting banal, everyday, normal, good things into things that LGBTQ members need fear, and then turning around and saying, oh, BYU, it's so controversial. It won't learn how to treat gays nicely because of these purity tests. Oh, wait, you mean Mandatory temple recommend interviews? Yes, but then they go so far as, well, when temple recommend interviews fail because they feel the church at large isn't enforcing them, and they kind of just develop their own interview questions. How is that? Yeah, no, that's so extreme. Oh, it's extreme. It's extreme to want to make sure people you hire for an ideological job share your ideology. No, but they keep twisting these nothing burgers into something that gay people need to fear. And that's what I am so tired of, is being told that I'm controversial for having normal, moderate opinions. And they won't stop being, my words won't stop being twisted until I agree with everything that they prescribe. Like, the only way they will ever stop twisting our words into being something anti-gay is when we're on board with them saying, oh yeah, we need gay temple ceilings. We need, like South Park says, put in a lesbian chicken or whatever it is. It's until we got lesbian chickens in South Park movies, they're never going to be happy. And that's what bothers me, because that is the toxic twisting of words that I really get tired of. So anyway,
I just don't like Peggy Fletcher Stack, guys. I'm just gonna I just don't trust her. If anyone else wrote this article, maybe I'd give it more credence. But yeah, she.
I think we can move on to Joe Rogan now. I'll just.
Well, no, we got to finish watching the video. We got to finish watching the video.
The whole 6-minute video.
Well, here we'll choose a number between.
I'm going to point out one more little trick that they play inside of this article. It says, if the school continues on this path, some academics warn, BYU may look less like a Latter-day Saint Notre Dame and more like Liberty University, an evangelical school founded by Jerry Falwell in Lynchburg, Virginia, which requires faculty members to agree to a lengthy list of Christian doctrines and policies, including opposition to same-sex marriage and transgender rights. Essentially what they're saying is, nice university you got there. Would be a shame if nobody respected it. That's what they're doing. Because
okay, but also...
if BYU continues down this path, who's going to be the people that make it
first
repercussions?
Pause.
It's
Luke,
Peggy Fletcher Stack.
But here's what... She's wrong, though. Liberty University became a laughingstock because Jerry Falwell Jr. was hiring a pool boy to sleep with his wife as he watched in a cuck chair, right? That's why it became... It wasn't doctrinal. It was because people were going, you were doing what, Jerry Falwell? Like, if Clark Gilbert is swinging with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, then maybe we might end up like Liberty University, and he's got the pineapple sticker on his car, and he's hurrying out of Vasa so nobody sees him. I don't think that's what's going on. So she's even got the background information totally wrong. Doesn't Notre Dame hold to the Catholic Church's views?
Well,
it's
I don't know.
More so than others. It's fair to say more so than others.
There's a level of like Catholic and name only going on with Notre Dame though, as well. Notre Dame.
Now I agree with Luke a little bit though, because I'm saying anti-Mormon rule number, I think it's 2, is they hold your humanity hostage until you, and it's always political first. And so here they are basically saying your reputation as being kind and Christian and not controversial is going to be held hostage until you agree with us on everything about gay marriage and transgender rights. Like it's you call it kind of the gangstery, nice university you got there. I call it spiritual terrorism and holding people's humanity hostage. No matter what we call it, we all get the same feeling and recognize it for what it is. It's just like Clarence Thomas when he tried to define pornography and he said, I know it when I see it. We all know what this is when we see it because we've seen it so many times. They hold your humanity hostage unless you agree with them politically, and they refuse to budge. And even though they're the ones that always say, can we just have a conversation about X? They never want to have a conversation. They want to change your mind or smear you.
Yeah. You know what kind of what bothers me is these articles are never written by, like, if they had here's the op-ed on this. This is an ex-BYU student, an openly gay who was kicked off a campus because of his relationship with his boyfriend and it traumatized his life. Here's his side of the story. But you never get that. It's always this baby boomer woman speaking on behalf of a group. You know, it's never the people they're talking about that are writing it. It's always the Utah elite ruling class, Salt Lake City pioneer stock leftists speaking on behalf of these groups. Hey, is anyone else here? Am I the only one here that was basically called a mass murderer by Becky Fletcher Stack? Remember that? Quake was doing the mass murders with his COVID parties. Yeah,
because the COVID party.
So it's
yes.
Yeah. So remember, she basically tried to get people to think I was a mass murderer. That's what it's like. Chelsea Handler. Remember when 50 Cent said he was voting for Trump and she was like, I just don't understand how you could do that.
And I'm going to talk to him and I'm going to talk some sense into him is what she said.
It's literally like, I'm going to go have him bust up a chifforobe. If you get that reference, you're well read.
You said it before. It was out of a book.
It's a good joke if you know it.
Was it Uncle Tom's Cabin, the literature you were referring to?
No.
It was Of Mice and Men. What was it again?
You got it.
No. It's, come on. To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, there we go.
Do you guys know that? It's a good joke if you know the book. It's a good. You read more American literature. Anyway, that's what always bothers me. It's never the group they're trying to talk on behalf of because they need those people for a narrative, right? They need to ambulance chase. So if you just get someone rogue and say, "How do you feel about this?" Write it and we'll publish it, but they don't do that, and that's what really bothers me because at the end of the day there is some gay kid in Helaman Halls who is really freaked out that if anyone discovers him, he's going to be chased like Jean Valjean stealing a loaf of bread. And she doesn't care that that's not the reality and that he's going to be like no one's out there looking for him trying to ruin his life. She doesn't care that's the reality. She wants these people in fear because that's how she gets her clicks and money. Like it's a really dark system when you think about it. Like, how dark do you have to be? Like if I know that there's a weird kid that comes into the gym every day and I figure out he just really likes anime. He's a nice guy, but he dresses up in a cloak because it's cold outside.
Yeah. And
I know that a couple girls like, that guy always comes in with a cloak. And I know in my head he's a normal dude. But I exploit their fear because I want to sell a new security system to Vasa. So I start going, did you hear about that guy with a cloak? A lot of the women are saying they're a little bit afraid, even though he just wearing it because it's snowy. But I need to sell this new security system. And then Vasa's all freaked out. Oh, the guy's going to. And suddenly he's public enemy number one. And I've gotten all the women afraid because I want to make the money. That is immoral. That's wrong. That's what Peggy does.
Yeah,
that's my mic drop.
It's the most toxic type of virtue signaling. There's home wrecking for profit, which we have often criticized the fake life coaching community of engaging in with these faith transition courses that create faith crises in order to profit off them and then get you to become just another swinging ex-Mormon, which apparently we found out is alcoholic swinging. Is that the guy that came after us? Did you say that might be another podcast the other day?
There's a tweet out there that
that's
apparently
another
he's
one.
doing like the pineapple
we'll need to
swinging
do
thing.
some
However,
research into that one.
it was a tweet, and the tweet didn't put out any real evidence.
We will verify before we name names. But I'm just saying, I agree with you as well. There's a reason why we have the moniker awful, affluent white female ultra liberals, with this white savior complex that makes these people feel empowered to virtue signal beyond what is self-congratulatory into what is destructive of social fabric. And to me, journalism is actually, I believe, one of the highest callings in a society to actually tell people what the goings are on and help them process the difficult events of the human experience here on Earth. And instead, there's those that choose to use it as just activism for their cause, which I'm fine with. But when it gets so cynical and self-serving and just cruel, like my boy Jim Bennett says he dislikes deliberate cruelty. To me, like this level of incompetence and virtue signaling gets so caustic and destructive. I do not see how it can not be deliberate. And when you look at what it yields for the person that's not saying it and how cruel that outcome is, to me, that just is deliberate cruelty. So anyway, pick a number between 1 and 6, and we'll watch one more 30-second clip of the video before we move on to Wes Huff and Joe Rogan. Ethan, pick a number between 1 and 6.
2.5.
Oh, okay. I'm going to 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the video with the Salt Lake Tribune, Peggy Fletcher Stack. Here we go.
A year interviewing faculty, and then came up with some categories of faculty that he had noticed.
Oh.
The highest being absolutely the most orthodox in bringing, quote, spirituality into the classroom, down to the lowest category, which he called the open foes, who apparently he believes have written or spoken out against church policies, and he would like to see those folks leave.
Oh, so the president of a
Peggy
university.
Fletcher Stack
So not the president of the
finds
university.
performance reviews. She's never heard of them before. Maybe they don't exist in journalism. That would make a lot of sense. But yeah, there's this thing called performance reviews. A lot of companies use them. But apparently it's really terrible when the church does it and like wants to use church standards as a way to review their employees.
Well, yeah,
that's really bad for some reason.
Elder Gilbert, it sounds like, he was new commissioner of education, and I'm sure he's something to the effect of, I've heard that BYU has some professors that aren't entirely in line with the church. Let me go talk to some of them. And then, he just observed that sure enough, there were some differences, and then he shared those differences.
And he classified them. This is what bothers me. She's using all this dramatic music, which is meant to make it look like a McCarthy Inquisition, okay? But she says, okay, he's classified people as, very faithful, moderately faithful, on the fence, and then open foes. And those open foes are the ones who have openly gone against the church in a public way. And he just didn't want them. He wanted them to leave. Did he want to kill him? No. He just wanted the people who didn't share the ideology of the university that they're teaching at to no longer be teaching at the ideological university. Like, that is it? That's what we made this 6.5 minute video about? She's insinuating this dude is disappearing people in the dark of night, like it's the freaking military junta in Argentina hunting down communists. But no, it's literally a guy who's simply saying, yeah, what are you doing here if you don't like Mormonism? Don't teach at the Mormon church if you don't like Mormonism. And yes, I would like it if you found employment elsewhere. How on earth is this nefarious?
I just got my Amazon bulk order of water balloons. It's shipping right now. So,
dude, she's gonna write an article.
Part of all of this, honestly, is just how much you can tell Elder Gilbert does not care about what the Salt Lake Tribune is saying. It says in the article that they reached out to him for comment and he did not respond, and he might have like offhandedly responded. He tweeted yesterday morning, a little while after the article was published, just basically linking to an article talking about how BYU is growing, even if some people don't like it. And
it was just an article listing all these professors that have come from Notre Dame and Harvard and Stanford to be like professors and deans and stuff at BYU, and how many applications they get. And yeah,
just talking about how great
and then
BYU is doing.
He said, some will see such a vision as compelling. Others will disagree and even criticize. Those of us who support BYU can engage critics with love, humility, and patience.
And that's all.
And that's why he has the calling and we don't.
Yeah.
Well, and you can tell he just doesn't care. You look at his Twitter bio, and it right in the middle of it is just father of 8.
Dude, I am looking this
Oh,
up.
by the way, Calvin Burke hates Clark Gilbert.
Oh, really?
Calvin Burke hates Clark Gilbert. So all the people who've tried to destroy my life really don't like Clark Gilbert. So now I've really got to like him.
Dude.
Even though his last name is my least favorite city in the country, I still got to like Clark Gilbert, guys.
Okay, I am actually looking
He
up.
is so based.
I am looking up his profile right now, and here you are. Here's his Twitter bio. Clark G. Gilbert, educator, father of 8, believer. And it's a picture of him and Russell M. Nelson, and then some blonde girl looks like giving him a diploma. Wow, look at that, dude. All right. Well,
He's had 8 kids. You think he really cares what Peggy Fletcher Stack is saying? That's all I'm saying.
okay,
and
well, we
even
got to give him.
his subtweet got more likes than her posting the article got. So,
Oh, shut up.
Issued.
Really?
yep.
I did say that I noticed we have more subs than the Salt Lake Tribune. That's wild.
Really?
Yeah, that's wild.
Nice.
And last thing I
Can
will
we
point
say that
out.
we're bigger than the Tribune now then?
I well, at least just analytically in terms of subscribers on YouTube, yes. I don't know if their cultural influence, how you would measure that if you include all the other avenues. And obviously their traditional gravitas in the zeitgeist of Utah, I'm sure, is astronomical. I wouldn't say astronomical, but considerable. But anyway, this is the only thing I will say. We got to give him a nickname. Donald Trump always had pejorative nicknames like Little Marco and Lion Ted Cruz. We need to give a positive nickname to Clark G. Gilbert. Is it Based Gilbert? I feel like once we use based for one person, we can't use it for anybody else, and it's a very good one. So what should we call Clark Gilbert? You're good at this kind of stuff, Kwaku. You're good at this kind of stuff, Luke.
I got to cook something up.
You got to cook something. It could be a play off words of Father 8. Chat. Everybody in the chat. What is a nickname we can give?
You know, while we're thinking of that, I think we've been too kind to BYU. You know, we want to be fair and balanced here. So I have a criticism of BYU that I like to level.
Okay.
And that is that I'm disappointed in BYU because Peggy was the one that publicized this and not BYU. BYU should be the one being out there saying, hey, guys, we're going through the lists. We're checking them twice, making sure all the professors are aligned with the doctrine. Like BYU should be putting that out there, not Peggy Fletcher Stack. Come on, what are you doing, BYU?
Well, I
so
guess
that's my
technically they
criticism.
did
So
just
we
like
can have a more
2.5
fair and
years
balanced
ago.
reporting.
That's funny. Let me catch up on a couple of super chats really fast. Fidget the Crazy, thank you much for the super chat. By the way, guys, if you want to opine and contribute to the conversation, send us a super chat. And as long as it's germane to the conversation, we're available.
Wait, this has been a live stream?
Yeah, this is a live
Oh,
stream. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Your water balloons comment.
It's out there. There's no turning back now. There's no turning back the water balloon comment.
Oh, that's funny. So, Fidget the Crazy says someone on X compared her to Rita Skeeter from the Harry Potter series, over-exaggerated as fluff and twist the truth. Yes, that's kind of funny. My personal experience with her has been horrendous too. And they're writing a hit piece on us right now. We're actually going to...
Wait, Salt Lake Tribune is?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're writing a hit piece on us right now.
On masculinity within the church or something, right?
Yeah, like we'll... we've already recorded...
Oh, gosh. I got a message about if I wanted to make a comment on a thing on masculinity. I honestly read it and I didn't have time to even
No,
respond.
there's going to be we will save it for the show.
Oh, they're
we're
coming-
doing a whole
oh.
we're doing a whole other
When is
we're
that
doing a
coming
whole
out?
other video. Well, I can't give spoilers. All
Oh.
right. But anyway, Descartes says, "Hey Cardin, Blinders wants to know what even is a progmo. Help him out." Oh, it's there's a difference between a progmo and a moprog. You're welcome in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to be a person who has very progressive views on all kinds of issues. There's a reason why every chapel, I say this all the time, the reason why every chapel has 2 foyers. I think it's all right if the people that share left-leaning political views hang out in the left foyer. And then I think it's fine if the people that share right-leaning political views hang out in the right foyer, as long as we can all come together and be honest in our dealings with our fellow man. And we can all take the sacrament and believe that Jesus is the Christ, not hold each other's humanity hostage, address each other respectfully, and so on and so forth. But there's some that are not okay with kindness, patience, and all that other stuff. And they break them rules, okay, and they hold our humanity hostage, or they unfortunately put their politics first. And you can be prog-mo or mo-prog. And there's Mormons that happen to be progressives, which are just okay. And then there's those progressives that are trying to, whose Mormonism comes second, and those are progmos. So it's the nomenclature, man. And then, thanks for everybody that joined the channel. It's a great way to get all of our videos a day early. If you want to join the channel, please don't forget, press that join button. You get a lot of videos a day early before they come out to the rest of YouTube. You want to say something, Quaco?
Have you guys seen V for Vendetta?
Oh. Voila, on view, a humble vaudevillian veteran cast vicariously as victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. Are you talking about that movie?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Natalie Portman.
Yes.
You know the end, how there's like the giant explosion and everything?
Yeah.
What if it was that but water balloons at the Salt Lake Tribune headquarters?
Then it would.
What if it's 1 million people wearing the Burger King mask, but instead of guns, they just have super soakers? You know what I mean? It just...
So you think the zombie apocalypse will be, what did Albert Einstein said? He said, I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but I know World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. I don't know with what weapons we will fight the zombie apocalypse, or zombie apocalypse number 2, but with zombie apocalypse number 3, you think it's going to be with super soakers?
No. Look, my disdain for the Salt Lake Tribune is deep. Like I truly just... If a tornado came into Utah and destroyed the Salt Lake Tribune headquarters, and people were raising money to bring it back on GoFundMe, I would create 1 million fraudulent GoFundMe accounts and mass report the petition to make sure they can never rebuild. That
you've been mistreated by them drastically.
So many people, they just lie. It's like they exist to protect the ideology of a certain specific elite class in the state of Utah, and anyone who's not them, they will do anything to destroy those people's lives. They will lie, they will smear, they do not care. It's like the most immoral journalist in the entire desert west in one little building. Like, these people would drink your blood if they could. They're just so dark-spirited. Like, I can't say enough terrible things about the Salt Lake Tribune and
you had me up until the drink the blood.
Demonic goblins, these potbelly hobgoblins that work there as journalists.
The potbelly goblins are turning the frogs gay. You know, that's pretty funny.
How do you know? Actually, Peggy, I've got an article I've got to drop in 20 minutes. Do you have any comment on you being a 5,000-year-old lizard person that eats children to harvest their energy? Do you have any comment on that? Any evidence you aren't that? Can you prove you aren't that, an interdimensional shape-shifting lizard person?
Well, who's to say that's not slander? Or that is slander? Maybe that's just a giant compliment.
Word on the street is, this is what many people are saying.
Yeah.
There are so many people who've come forward who've been abused by the lizard people
this is why Donald Trump's phrase fake news rang so loud in the ears of the American public, because all of us in one way or another have a friend, a loved one, or us ourselves that has been wildly mistreated or misled for politically activist reasons by major news outlets that should know better. Just as Ronald Reagan said to that room full of teachers and administrators in the 80s at UC Berkeley, that these kids are rioting and doing damage because they're led by people and you should know better. Yes, they have the freedom to do it, but you should know better. And these people don't. The media is the fourth estate. According to the founding fathers, the fourth estate that was keeping the first three estates in check is supposed to be the media. They're supposed to speak truth to power, but instead they're enabling the most toxic power in the state of Utah, as Kwaku puts out. It is shameful. These people are shameful. Like, I don't see how she makes it through a Temple Recommend interview with the article she's written. I do not see how. Like, are you honest in your dealings with your fellow man? I would simply be like, oh no, that's a no. Like, she's lied about me 7 times. You know, and I'm sorry, that's not the mixture of church and state. It's factual lies that can be proven, and we've confronted her on, and she just refuses to change. And these aren't things like, well, you called me unattractive, which is like a subjective term. No, just factual lies that either for pride or for activism, they refuse to change, and we're tired of it. So,
well, and what their defense is to their team is, oh, those are just a bunch of right-wing, ultra far right podcast. The video uploaded on World Radio before this, half the comments are calling me a leftist Marxist. So if the leftist Marxist and the far righter can both agree that Peggy Fletcher Stack is dishonest, maybe she's just a little bit dishonest.
By the way, we seem to have two nicknames that are in the lead in the comments right now.
What are they? Tell us. What are they?
So we've got one of them's simple. It's just Elder O.G. Gilbert. So just adding a little O in there.
Okay, that's cool.
Then the other one is just straight up Giga Chad Gilbert.
Someone did say Clark Chadbert.
Clark Chadbert. I've got one. You remember how there was Octomom?
Hey,
that
and then
had
his name's not Gilbert anymore, so that would work well with Kwaku.
It's true.
Yeah. Do you remember Octomom that had the 8 children through not artificial insemination, but
in vitro fertilization?
Whatever it was, in vitro fertilization. It was some kind of fertility treatments in the late 90s, early 2000s. They called her Octomom. She had like 8 octuplets or whatever. So if he's got 8 children, instead of calling him Giga Chad, because that's too common of a term for a stud, and also by looking at his profile picture, I mean, he is a little bit geeky. Like, let's just be honest. He is that kind of like stake president, area authority in a suit geeky. So I don't think Giga Chad would work. He needs to be a little more swole for Giga Chad. But what about Octo Chad? Just like there was Octomom.
Sounds kind of weird.
Octo Chad, right?
Sounds kind of like not human.
Think so? Hey, I was liking it. Why are you raining on my parade?
What's his middle name?
It's
Clark G. Gilbert. What is? Maybe there's a playoff with the G.
Godfrey. What is his middle name? You guys report the news. What is it?
It's supposed like Gary.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I guess we can move on to the Joe Rogan podcast. This one was a rough one.
G. Gilbert. All of the bad people at BYU. I don't know.
Bring in the hurt.
Clark G. Gilbert, Peggy Fletcher Stack's feelings. There we go.
Oh, that's good. Gilbert. Oh my gosh, man. That's a tongue twister.
Oh, I've got my nickname for Peggy Fletcher Stack.
What?
Beelzebub.
Oh, shit.
So it's my...
All right, so Joe Rogan, he did a thing with a guy.
Joe Rogan did a thing with a guy.
Poor Kwaku gets us all canceled really hard.
Yeah.
Move on.
So really fast.
I know I'm gonna get. There's gonna be tweets and X more and Reddit posts and everything. If you're upset at how harsh we have been on her, DM me or Cardin privately and ask, what did she do to make you have such a response like that? What did
Ask
she do?
Brad, the kindest, most diplomatic man to ever walk through the Ward Radio wigwam. He won't deal with her anymore. And if you have lost the respect and the cooperation of Brad Whitbeck, the Gandhi of Mormonism, all right? If you have lost his respect, I'm sorry. Like, there is a final end to 7 times 70, and it's Brad Whitbeck. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am convinced that in heaven, like, Jesus at the end of the day, he never gets tired. But there's going to be a lot of souls to be forgiving and a lot of judgment to be doing. I'm sure there's going to be a moment where God and Jesus Christ just kind of look over and they say, Brad, should we forgive this guy? Yes, Lord. Yes, there is peace still. There's love. Give them a chance. Okay, cool. And then Peggy Fletcher Stack's going to come up, right? He's be like, I got nothing, Jesus. I got nothing. I tried to tell them.
No, Brad would still defend her. I got you, Brad.
Or he would just say, I'm sorry, I have to recuse myself on this one.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, conflict of interest.
Sorry, I have to. The only time you can figure out he's Canadian is when he is apologizing. It is really fun. I miss Brad. Why isn't he in this podcast?
No, Brad has some other words that are kind of Canadian too.
He doesn't say a toque. My other friend said a toque for a beanie. And he says a boat. He doesn't say a boat. He says a boat. I've only noticed it at least in sorry. That's all I've noticed.
I wish he had the Toronto accent. Have you guys heard how horrible that one is? Oh, super break outside, fam. Way too cold out today, bud.
That was good.
Oh, she's got bare catties on her phone, fam. Ain't no way. Have you guys look up Toronto accent on
Sounds
TikTok.
like
It's
a
wild.
Wisconsin Viking.
Yeah, no, it's like a weird... If the business is true and she left her mom's in the hoods. Oh, I'm sick to my stomach, fam.
Well, that kind of went a little bit Irish or Scottish there too, but it was good. It was good. I loved it. So, okay, are we doing the first timestamp on the Joe Rogan podcast at 57:25?
Huff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us what's going on, Luke. Tell us what's going on.
We actually got a message from a guy. I don't have it up right now. Sorry, but I'm giving you an anonymous shout out. And he said, "Hey, I was going through Joe Rogan. I found 2 spots where this guy just kind of goes God maker tropes on Mormons, and Joe Rogan actually kind of goes along with him on that. You guys should, I thought of you guys. You guys should talk about it." So I watched the clips, and it's like, yeah, this guy Wesley Huff, he should really know better. Like, he paints himself as an expert. You'll see the irony in the first clip actually with that. He's got his whole website. He has like 40,000 followers on X. His website says teach, reach, encourage, equip. And it says that he's an apologist, scholar, has books, gives speeches. Yeah, makes a lot of infographics about like Bible translation and that kind of stuff. So,
okay, well, let's watch the clips.
Joe Rogan.
Let's watch the clips on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan.
These are timestamps, so they might have ads before them.
Okay, cool. Here we go.
Bunch of really lost people and send them down this crazy road, and then eventually it all falls apart. And
you know what's interesting about that is I have less of a problem with the objective truth claims and more of a problem with them saying, but don't look into it. Like, don't test it. Like, what I say goes, and you're not allowed to explore it. Like, talking about the Mormon church, they recently did this thing where they're like, you don't need to go on the internet, and you don't need to, and it's
don't
like,
watch
guys,
the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, guys, I don't think you realize what you're sounding like when you come across in that way.
Mormons are the nicest cult members. They're the nicest people. They really are so nice. I love them. I mean, Mormons that I've met have been so friendly. They're so family-oriented.
It's true.
It's like really easy to like think these are great people. I'll join them.
Well, just pause a second. I take issue with what Wes Huff said here because it's unbiblical. They're always saying, what is the biblical way a man should guide his household? What is biblical masculinity? What is biblical business? What is biblical safe driving? Like, everything to these people is biblical this and that. And they do to us exactly what the Sadducees did to Jesus. Whenever there's a miracle performed by a Mormon, they say it must be by the power of Beelzebub, that person was healed, that person's life was restored, that addiction was overcome. And then also, they always forget James, where he says, and the Apostle Paul, where he says, a bitter font cannot bring forth sweet water, and a sweet font cannot bring forth bitter water. And Jesus Christ himself said, when they said that he's doing this all by the power of the devil, he said, if I do this by the power of the devil, then by whom did your fathers, the prophets, perform their miracles? So my question, Wes Huff, is do you reject the Bible in every one of its translations? Can a bitter font bring forth sweet water? Because the Apostle Paul and James both said, all over the Bible are a million analogies, that God is not a house divided. A house divided cannot stand. So if really, as Joe Rogan says, we are so nice, and as you say, oh yeah, absolutely, great people, where did that greatness come from? You don't get to say your sola scriptura and the Bible is the final word on everything, and then go against the Bible and say that a bitter font is bringing forth sweet water. You can't do that. Am I wrong here? Is there an out? Did I not steelman this correctly?
I think that's pretty good.
The argument is just bad on its face too, because, well, it's hypocritical because so often you'll have members of the church talking to Protestants, and to these Calvinist types, and they'll be like, well, you can't know that the Book of Mormon is true, and they'll bring up all the different reasons that they always bring up. And most members of the church will say, well, you know what, I don't know how to respond to each of those, but I can say that I've prayed about it and I feel like God has told me that it's true. I went and I asked for myself, and then a member of the church will often say, and if you read it and ask God, I really believe that he'll answer you too. And so often they will say, no. You shouldn't even read the Book of Mormon. Don't, like, I don't know if you've seen those memes where you have like a sign in front of like a Protestant church building that says don't pray about the Book of Mormon, that's how they get you. Like,
Yeah.
so often they'll say stuff like that, and now he's acting like the church is saying, oh well, don't go ask questions. The church was literally founded on the concept of asking questions.
And here's the thing. I think what he's trying to refer to, and this is where it's important to kind of separate, like you can separate the two. So there's like the feelingsy side of General Conference, and then there's the doctrinal side of General Conference, right? So when President Oaks is talking about, I believe it's President Oaks, where he's talking about how, sometimes the best information isn't just to run on the internet and figure out, like to surf the web to figure out the answers. Sometimes you've got to go to the right places. President Oaks says that, and it gets clipped and put on social media as if President Oaks is saying, no, don't do any research. Don't do any research into our faith, when that's obviously not what a leader of a church who's publishing the diaries of Joseph Smith for the whole world to read is saying. Like, obviously, that's not the church's position. Let's be reasonable. It's saying, look, we live in a world right now where if I go on TikTok, I can find a video of Will Smith making out with Kristen Stewart in front of the North Korean headquarters, because that's how good AI has gotten. So obviously just going to the internet and clicking on whatever link and just believing it about your church is probably not the best thing you can do. So pointing out that there is good information and that there's bad information shouldn't be seen as controversial or culty. That's how reasonable people get to reasonable positions. But then that gets taken and bastardized into, look, this Mormon cult doesn't want you to know what's their real history. And I feel like it's disingenuous, because that's what atheists do to Protestants, right? The pastors don't want you to know that the Bible says this. And people like Wes Huff goes, actually, I've dedicated my whole life and career to figuring out those things. I do a whole YouTube channel discussing every single topic you're talking about. Come listen. And if we were to go on Joe Rogan and say, oh yeah, is it weird how Wes Huff, they make these like videos to try to shield you away from the truth of how evil the Bible actually is? So they're just doing to us what they don't like being done to them.
Well, they do it themselves. You should hear them talk about the Apocrypha. Oh my gosh, you should hear them talk about any other religion or any other book that they just is not in their canon. They will literally tell their own congregants, oh yeah, you don't have to go read that. Oh no, the Quran is just a fallen prophet. Muhammad, he's a false prophet. No, it's all bad. And oh yeah, the Book of Mormon, yeah, it's just horrible. Oh yeah, and Jehovah's Witness. Like, you can't, you're saying you can't ask questions? Like, are you kidding me? These are the people that make entire YouTube channels dismissing other people's sincerely held religious beliefs. And just because some Mormon dad or some Mormon bishop, says like, oh, look, you don't have to waste your time reading Mein Kampf. Hitler was a bad guy. Anti-Semitism is not a good deal. Like, you don't need to read anti-Semitic literature to have a well-rounded view on whether or not your Jewish friends are good people, or whether or not you shouldn't give a Hanukkah gift. Like that's not hiding the truth. It's saying you don't need to read anti-Semitic literature to have a good relationship or a well-rounded view of, to integrate into society with your Jewish friends. Just like you don't need to go read endless amounts of anti-Mormon literature, because guess what? There's a lot of people a lot smarter than you that have pored over these things endlessly and have come to the same conclusion that I have, that they perpetually lie and recycle tropes and dishonestly straw man over and over and over again, because their intention is not to find truth. Like they say, their intention is to smear. He is an apologist who's trying to elevate the Calvinist and Baptist position, which is wildly anti-Mormon, and he is okay with using tropes that have been debunked on this channel at Fair Mormon, by Hugh Nibley in the 60s, by Orson Pratt in the freaking 1800s. There has been 200 years of this God-makers tropes that keep getting recycled. I would bet my bottom dollar. Actually, no, it's probably beneath Wes Huff, because he uses generally more elevated academic terms. Don't tell me he says we get our own planet. If he says we get our own planet, to me, that's just like when people say, well, did you know Donald Trump said there's very good people on both sides? The second I hear somebody say Donald Trump's a baddie for very good, fine people on both sides, I know this is a disingenuous or a brainwashed person. You know, the second I hear Mormons say they get their own planet, oh, brainwashed, disingenuous person.
Should we keep going and hear what he's got to...
Let's do it.
I'm gonna hop in here with, just to kind of prove the point, provide receipts. Here are 2 quotes about the church telling you not to look at stuff from an anti. They said that one time Elder Uchtdorf said, it's always good to keep in mind just because something is printed on paper, appears on the internet, is frequently repeated, or has a powerful group of followers, doesn't make it true. It's not actually that crazy of a statement. And then here's Elder Cook. Some have immersed themselves in internet materials that magnify, exaggerate, and in some cases invent shortcomings of early church leaders. That's just kind of a normal statement. I mean, we had, what's his face, making up Brigham Young quotes on ChatGPT and spreading them around TikTok, and they got however many tens of thousands of views. So that just sounds like kind of normal advice that anybody would give anybody. But
it's almost
once
like
the Mormons
it's timeless.
say it, then it's like, oh, they're a cult. They're telling you not to look at stuff. Oh no, freak out, everybody.
Yeah, it's almost as though it's evergreen Orthodox wisdom provided by spiritual leaders of a worldwide church in a yearly conference that is meant for a general audience. It's almost laughably banal. So, okay, we continue with the first clip.
Continue the same clip.
Okay.
We know why they're family oriented, right?
Why?
Is because this
is the second clip.
In what
isn't it?
Joseph Smith.
No, this is still the first clip. So I'll go back to where he says, you know why they're family oriented. This is still the first clip. I'm just continuing to press play. I'd press pause before.
Mormons that I've met have been so friendly. They're so family oriented.
It's true.
There's some. I mean, it's like really easy to like think these are great people. I'll join them.
We know why they're family oriented, right?
Why?
Is because in what Joseph Smith wrote.
By the way, look at how excited he is to dunk on these people. Like, that is not... You can kind of tell he's really, really excited to have a chance to dunk on these people by how he's smiling. But let's keep going.
I don't think you realize what you're sounding like when you come across in that way.
Mormons are the nicest cult members. They're the nicest people. They really are so nice. I love them. I mean, Mormons that I've met have been so friendly. They're so family oriented.
It's true.
There's some. I mean, it's like really easy to like think these are great people. I'll join them.
We know why they're family oriented, right?
Why?
Is because in what Joseph Smith wrote, there's an idea that everybody's soul pre-exists, and you were born as a spirit child in a previous life. And the reason you need to have children is you need to bring those people's souls into existence. And so there's because you have a heavenly father and a heavenly mother. And you're all children of God in the actual physical sense.
Oh, which, by the way, heaven forbid, heaven forbid we think that all of the people on earth are literal children of God, as the Bible says we are.
And also he said in the literal physical sense, but we don't believe that we're physical before we were born. So he's not being very precise with his language. It kind of sounds like he's going to God makers. You're endlessly, eternally pregnant in heaven, like spiritually pregnant. That's not anywhere in the doctrine.
Well, let's let him
finish. It
finish.
Seems like he's making that sort of twisted version of the story.
Yeah, so let's let him finish, and so we can react to the exact words because we want to be precise.
And that the pursuit is exaltation, where you will be a god on your own planet.
There it was! There it was!
Wait for the misquote. Wait for the misquote.
Okay.
And everything right.
You get your own planet, which is pretty
you get your own
dope.
planet. And this is so Joseph Smith in the King's Follett Funeral Discourse. This is what he wrote.
Which, by the way, I'm so tired of these fake. Okay, you go, Kwaku. You go. Why are you rubbing your face?
Because the getting your own planet thing. If you want to try to trace that down to someone, you can't trace it to Joseph Smith. Okay. The King Follett is talking about becoming like God and the nature of God, but there is nothing in the King Follett sermon about getting a planet. There's also nothing in the King Follett sermon about creating spirit children and bringing them to earth, right? So he's doing the thing where he's referencing something that's real, kind of has like the footnote, but like he's putting stuff in that's not in that sermon. You can go read it online.
It's repeated
and
ad
I'll nitpick it a little
nauseum.
bit more. I'll nitpick it a little bit more. He said, so what Joseph Smith wrote in the King Follett sermon. Joseph Smith did not write the King Follett sermon down.
Right.
It was just a sermon in a grove of trees, and there's 4 different versions of it that like all conflict with each other a little bit here and there because they were using shorthand, and some of it's recollection from later. And so when he's acting like Joseph Smith like wrote this down, it was like canonized doctrine, something like that. It's not. Like, we believe that Joseph Smith knew what he was talking about, but the King Follett sermon doesn't quite rise to the level that we put the Doctrine and Covenants on, if only for the reason that it was just a transcription done in the moment, in real time, in a funeral sermon.
Also, I am sick and tired of people calling themselves experts that can't even pronounce the names of the Mormon doctrine that they are referencing correctly. It's like when Donald Trump got up at the religious university and said, actually, I'm a very religious person. You may not realize this, but I'm Presbyterian. Did I tell you I'm Presbyterian? And he's trying to cozy up with all these Christians to get their votes, right? And then in his speech, written by his speechwriter, as he's looking at the teleprompter, he's like, just like it says in the book 2 Corinthians, thou shalt not. And it's like, oh my gosh, if you don't know that it's 2 Corinthians, then I don't really think you're actually Presbyterian. I don't really think you've gone to church in years. I don't really think you actually have a spiritual connection with God through the atonement of Jesus Christ. You may be respectful of us. I may still vote for you, but don't give me this I'm a Christian just like you crap if you're calling it 2 Corinthians. When you say, oh yeah, well, did you know that, they get their own planet? And it even says in the King's Follett discourse sermons that, it's like, oh man, just because a lie is repeated ad nauseum, i.e. Napoleon Bonaparte was short. Just because that propaganda was repeated ad nauseum by the English doesn't mean Napoleon was actually short. He was average height for his day. He was probably about 5'8". So just because the evangelical community has been so dishonest for so long, so unethical for so long, and has repeated ad nauseum for so long, the same lie doesn't mean it's real. And you should know this if you say you are a trained historian, as you do in all of your content, because I have been following Wes Huff carefully. This is actually a little bit heartbreaking for me because I was really excited to see a new, young, fresh-faced apologist that seemed really, really into the ancient manuscripts just as much as Jonah Barnes was. I've probably watched about 10 hours of this guy's content in the past week, and we've even recorded some other videos about him, me and Kwaku, that have yet to be released in the wake of him debating Billy Carson, which I thought were really interesting. And now I call into question all of the conclusions he's made about the authenticity of the Bible and the manuscripts, because I know that he is unethically approaching Joseph Smith and the King Follett discourse. How do I know he's not unethically approaching, I don't know, the Gospel of Thomas, the Shepherd of Hermas, the Didache? He's lost my trust, is what I should say. He's lost my trust, and we'll let him finish.
This is where he formulated this idea where God, the Father, has a body as tangible as ours, of flesh and blood.
Which, by the way, the first, second, and third century Christians believed as well.
And that he lived on another planet, and that was, circled around the star called Kolob. And that if you
no, that wasn't it. Okay, first of all, he said he formulated the idea that God had a body of flesh and blood in the King Follett. Not true. That's Doctrine and Covenants 130. God
and flesh
did
and
not...
blood is actually a pretty important distinction. It's flesh and bone.
Correct.
And it's something that Protestants will kind of slip in there, and you have to be like, no, I see what you're doing. That's not accurate.
Yeah, flesh and bone is tangible as man's. That's Doctrine and Covenants 130, not King Follett. And then he said that God used to live on a planet as a man near a place called Kolob. No, in the probably metaphorical description of how the world is organized, which a lot of creation myths and astronomical myths do, including in the Bible, it says that God is nearest to the star Kolob. not that he grew up there.
Also,
that's
can
a God makers type of thing. Actually, even God makers doesn't get it that wrong.
Yeah. Also, can we just all recognize? I love how Trent Horn says that believers should not argue like atheists. He is smirking and laughing and mocking sincerely held religious beliefs, just in the same way that atheists jeer at the idea of Leviathan. Atheists jeer at the idea of Jonah being swallowed for 3 days in the belly of a whale with the exact same smirk, the exact same smile, the exact same cruelty. This is the exact same face and attitude that you end up getting from atheists as they mock believers, saying, show me the evidence of the Exodus. Show me the evidence, the campfires, the Israelites. They're not there. See. Because at the end of the day, Wes, this is the problem with guys like you. You say you're a believer and you're different from the atheists, but your behavior is exactly the same. Because atheists pick and choose their facts and their figures. They hold them in your face. They hold your intelligence hostage. And then they say, you're stupid if you believe. And then you guys try and justify all of these man-made creeds, which were political solutions to religious problems. And then you shove them in the face of other religions and then say, you're stupid if you don't believe our way. At the end of the day, you're doing the same spiritual and intellectual terrorism and cruelty, just under a different flag.
You know what's also funny though?
What?
The Mormons, they believe that God lived on a planet. Now, that's different than Christians who believe that Jesus is God who lived on a planet. Wait, don't you think they're all one anyway? What's the difference
Jonah.
between Jesus living on a planet next to, Venus and that sounds weird. Well, okay.
Did you know that
the hypostatic union is knucking thoughts?
You guys,
These are the people that defend the hypostatic union.
What I'm saying though is if he believes that Jesus, the Father and the Spirit are one, and that Jesus lived on a planet, how is he believing anything different than what we believe about Heavenly Father?
Yeah, it makes no sense. And don't forget, they defend the Bible, the word that never shows up in the Bible, saying we're not
Trinity.
Christians because we don't believe in the man-made creedal version of the Trinity that came out during the Middle Ages, wasn't perfected until, the 6th, 7th, or 8th century AD, and we're not Christian enough to be treated with basic decency and respect because we don't follow the Bible. No. We don't follow the scriptures, the New Testament, the book of John, Luke, James. No. It's because you don't believe in the Trinity, the word that doesn't even show up in the Bible. You have to squint your eyes and do 3 back bends in order to understand what the heck the Nicene, Athanasian, Apostolic Creed is. It's because we don't wallow in the mire of their linguistic gobbledygook. We're the baddies. And it's just plain old cruel. I don't care if you believe the revelations of Joseph Smith. Don't say you're an expert if you're just recycling tropes. That's not expert behavior. That is ignorant and uninformed behavior. Also, don't say you're a Christian if you're going to use tribal smears. Just admit, I'm an academic and I don't like those guys over there. When there's a Palestinian that just says, I don't like Jews, so I'm going to draw big-nosed cartoons and publish them and hand them out, fine. You know what, bro? You're an anti-Semite, but great. I at least respect you do it. At the Nuremberg trials, not a single German admitted, yes, I was anti-Semitic. Meanwhile, we've got 6 million bodies unaccounted for. Oh yeah, it couldn't all be that one guy's fault, all right? So we know that anti-Semites don't admit to anti-Semitism, but it looks like anti-Mormons don't admit to anti-Mormonism either. So either just don't call yourself an expert and admit you have to learn more and have a civil and peaceable conversation, or else don't call yourself a Christian. Just call yourself a tribalist. Say, yeah, I'm kind of eye for an eye. I don't like Mormons. They're constantly taking away converts from these congregations. The Southern Baptist Convention lost 1 million members last year. And they lost 1 million members because they're tired of getting lied to. They're tired of having judgy people breathe down their necks that they're not good enough for some weird arbitrary reason that their pastor enforces and holds their humanity hostage unless they do act or be this other thing. It's just plain old cruel, and it is is no different than the pagans or the atheists. That's the worst part. Quit acting like you're better than the pagans and the atheists when you're exactly the same way. I'm sorry, I'm going to take some heart medication right now. That got a little bit heated. Welcome to the Ward Radio wigwam, Jonah Barnes.
Hello. I just want to point out that this, as an expert, okay, as a expert on this, all right, I wrote a dissertation and a bunch of guys, they knighted me a doctor on this. I want to explain Wes Hoff's fig haterism. Okay, there's in the Discord, you can see there's a little picture here about Wes Hoff and how much he hates fig trees. This guy, legit, you can trust me, I'm an expert, worships a man who just went around just like killing fig trees all the time. He just like murdered them all the time. And he'd be like, hey, do unto others as I do, follow my example. And then he just murder these fig trees for no reason at all. Like they were just like innocent little trees, but he was so filled with hatred. Anyways, I'm an expert on this, and you can trust everything that I say on the topic. That is what Wes Hoff is doing to our religion. He here's one little line, and he's like, I'm an expert here. And then goes off about he's like, King Follow Discourse, Kolob, spiritually pregnant. You're like, oh, what are you talking about?
This is what frustrates
me. This guy just hates fig trees.
This is what
for the fact that he hates fig trees.
So I've unfortunately discovered he's friends with Mike Winger, and I'm sure he's probably in with the Apologia Studios crowd and everything like that. And this is what bothers me. Where's my row of anti-Mormon books here? Where's the big green book? Here we go. This is the book all the Apologia Studios and the Mike Wingers guys and that whole brand of anti-Mormons use. And they're photocopies of like old Mormon books, quotes taken out of context, selective everything, right? You don't just get to read a 50-page pamphlet and call yourself an expert on a religion. Just like atheists don't get to just go read The God Delusion by not Richard Dawkins. Who's the other one?
That's God Delusion is Richard Dawkins.
Okay.
God is Not Great is Christopher Hitchens.
Oh, yeah. So God is Not Great. Just because you read God is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens, you're not all of a sudden an expert on Christianity and able to debunk the existence of God. You're not able to explain the problem of evil. You're not able to explain the Big Bang, redshift, time, none of that. Well, actually, you can explain redshift, but how it actually, we're not going down that rabbit hole. But the point is, just because you read one book, okay, just because you read one book, or in this case, one pathetic little pamphlet, okay, you're not an expert, okay? You're not an expert. So this is the same thing I asked Mike Winger. Either stop saying you're an expert when you're ignorant, agree to have a civil conversation and learn, because apparently as an academic, you should be really good at learning, or just don't call yourself a Christian. I don't mind it when the atheists just smear me. Because these are the guys that say there is no God, there's no morality that actually dictates what I'm doing is wrong. And personally, I kind of like it. So it's self-serving for me to smear you. You know what? I respect that guy. Okay, but don't tell me that it's all about Christianity. Don't make the YouTube algorithm give me a bunch of videos. Can I trust the Bible? And talk about the importance of getting close to God and having the true words of Jesus. When Jesus never treated Samaritans, those who had supposedly bastardized the Jewish faith, as badly as you treat Mormons, and at the end of the day actually venerated them by making them subjects of his best, most Christ-like behaving parables. And Samaritans were the first ones to recognize Jesus' divinity. Wasn't it the woman at the well, a Samaritan? The first to recognize that he was the Christ? Before the freaking apostles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
just don't. You know, when somebody just advice for all our haters out there. We got plenty of them in the chat. If you're on a podcast that has 10 bajillion viewers and somebody says, "Hey, tell me about geopolitical tensions with the Houthis right now," and you don't know about that, you know what you say? You know, I really don't know much about that. You should probably get on somebody who knows about that.
So
this bro is like, oh, let me tell you all about those Mormons, Kolob and spiritual pregnancy, none of which ever came out of the mouth of Joseph Smith. Bro doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. And by the way, just for the record, if you don't like our answer on what happens after you go to heaven, if you don't like our answer, give us your answer, okay? Because your answers suck. we're going to sit on clouds and play harps all day, buck naked, with little wings and fat little babies flying around. Your answer sucks, okay? So we think we're going to go off and hopefully rise to be like our Father in heaven and be co-creators, and that he thought it not robbery that we should be exalted on a throne next to him. We agree with the Bible, and we think that, okay? Your answer sucks. So don't make fun of our answer. All right?
Kwaku says we should lean into the meme. Kwaku says we need to market. Actually, we need to market that you get your own planet now. We should just run.
Yeah, well,
what else do you do?
well, here's the thing,
What
though.
else? What else?
If they say that Mormons believe they get their own planet, why don't we lean with it and say, yeah, you don't? What do you guys even do in your heaven? Just ask. What do you guys even
It's
do
the
in your heaven?
barracks.
Do
It's
you guys
the
have
barracks
any?
of the choir.
Yeah,
They
sometimes
come out
the
every
best.
morning and they're ding, 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 and you come out and you sing praises again, oh praise, and then you go back to your barracks.
They
for
speak
time
about
all
heaven and they
eternity.
leave it kind of open because they want anyone to be able to fill it in with their mind. At least we're a little more
Yes.
specific, you know.
Right.
And you remember in that first 2016 presidential Republican debate when Megyn Kelly gets her first question to Donald Trump, and she goes, Mr. Trump, you've called women you don't like pigs, slobs, and disgusting animals. And he interrupts her and goes, only Rosie O'Donnell. And the crowd erupted with laughter. And all the other politicians were like, you can just do that? I had no clue you can just make a joke out of it? Well, and he goes, and it was more to that. He goes, yeah, I'm sure it was. Where every other politician would have knees buckling crumbled under that confrontation, he made a joke out of it, and they loved it.
Yeah.
They never give any detail. They never give any detail. What are we going to do then? I mean, what do you think we're going to do? And they never give any. We're all going to morph together in the great lightning cloud of the ether that is the Trinity and nothingness. You know what it sounds like? Remember the end of Doctor Strange? Remember the end of Doctor Strange? The guy with the weird eyes?
Never
and he's
saw
like,
it.
oh, you're going to, oh, come on, Kwaku, you love Marvel movies. Don't pretend like you don't love them. And he's like, oh, you're going to now join, what's the name of the villain? Mugatu? What's the guy, the big guy in the
Cthulhu?
sky?
Cthulhu,
No, not Cthulhu,
and
the big
H.P.
Dormammu?
Lovecraft?
Dormammu. Thank you, Dormammu. And he's like, I'm going to go join Dormammu. And he just he dissolves away in the wind and he goes and joins Dormammu. That's what I picture Christian heaven is.
Okay,
You're
I got to
there
catch
for
up on.
Trinity, and you're just going to go, get sucked away in a whirlwind. You know?
Okay, I got to
Doesn't
catch up
sound
on
right.
some super chats really fat. Fidget the Crazy says, we need to make Brad run for Prime Minister of Canada now that Trudeau is gone. Amen and a woman.
Brilliant.
And then we've got another super chat. Nate Dog says, first time catching the live stream. Been loving all the videos. Been watching lately. Cardin is a bull in a china shop and everyone else is cool too. Ha ha. Wow, you haven't met Kwaku yet. You think I'm a bull in a china shop. He's a steroid injected
let's talk about
Spanish
Crusades,
bull.
Kwaku.
You know, Risto says, are you also going to play any clips where they talk about Jesus? We're getting through the rest of the clips. Thank you. Sharp Shooting Tuna says, so I had a question for my son last night. Who is more perfect, Jesus or Heavenly Father? They're both perfect. So that's a really good question. I think there's probably
Although you could say that the Father is more exalted in terms of Jesus defers to him.
It's a semantic. The answer is all in the semantics. It's what does perfection mean? In Greek, it means whole. What does perfection mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And we're going to continue here. Let him keep bagging on Mormons.
As tangible as ours, of flesh and blood, and that he lived on another planet, and it was circled around the star called Kolob, and that if you do everything right, you will also be the God on your own planet. And so you got to encourage people to have kids because you're pulling those spirit babies out of the spiritual realm. But you're right, they are. They're incredibly nice
Joseph
people.
Smith
The
didn't
nicest.
say the planet thing in the King Follett discourse. He didn't say that God lived on Kolob in the King Follett discourse. He didn't say flesh and blood. It's flesh and bones, and that's DNC 130. It's not
By the
King
way,
Follett.
And remember, he says Joseph Smith wrote all these things. No, he didn't.
The Apostle Paul
he
did.
didn't write it in the King Follett
No,
discourse.
the only one that
You get
wrote
that all wrong.
the only one that wrote, "Oh, you're going to become like gods," was actually the Apostle Paul when he said co-participants in his glory. They can never describe that. They can never explain baptisms for the dead. They can never explain what was the third heaven. What are these 3 degrees of glory? What was the Apostle Paul talking about when he said co-participants in their glory? What was James talking about when he said, "Oh, show me your works and I will show you your faith," or whatever that correctly translated phrase is.
Yep.
It's frustrating.
The nicest.
Yeah, it's a really great cult. You know, I mean, or religion, whatever. I mean, I used to have a joke in my act that a cult is fake and it's made by one guy. That guy invented it. In a religion, that guy's dead.
Okay, that's funny-ish. Oh, wait a
There might be
second.
something to that.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
okay.
Oh, so what? So there might be something to that. What, Jesus?
Wait, I mean,
For
is he
sure.
saying that it's a cult until the guy's dead, and then all of a sudden it becomes a religion?
Then it's a religion, yeah.
But
Like
it was like a
you-
joke.
Like you adorn the sepulchres of the prophets, but a living prophet is among you, and John the Baptist came among you, didn't recognize him, type of deal.
Yeah,
Sure.
one of those things.
Okay.
So
Because Joseph Smith is dead because y'all killed him. So are we a religion now? Do we get to be called a religion now?
yeah. Well, at least
Because
Joe
Wes
Rogan.
Wes
would.
Huff's grandfathers murdered the prophet.
Yeah.
No. If they lived in the days of the prophets, surely they would not have stoned them. They're children of Abraham. Surely they would not have stoned the prophets had they lived in their days.
I see what you're doing there, Jonah. So I'm going to finish this clip. How far do I go? Is there another minute left?
That one's done. That one's done. We can do the other one now.
Okay, we can.
And
do
I
the
was
other one.
confused because I think we're playing the later timestamp first.
No,
so
we
now
played
we'll go
the-
to the first time.
No, we're playing the later timestamp now. I've done them in order.
Maybe I put them in the wrong order.
Okay,
in the
cool.
Discord, but we're good.
Well, here's the later timestamp. Wes Huff, go.
Aspects of the fact that there are ancient cultures which, I mean, humanity obviously looks very different today than it did, if we're going tens of thousands of years ago.
Right.
And so I think that there's a different kind of convention in understanding. But ultimately, I would ascribe to there being an original Adam and Eve, and that those are our
Wait, this doesn't sound
I wanna call
right.
them like
Did
our
this
first
skip?
parents kind of thing. But
What's he talking about?
What time is this at?
1:51:27.
Oh, no, that's something else. It should be like at 18 minutes, I think.
Okay, cool. Maybe I just pulled.
Yeah,
up.
1930.
Okay, so you want me to go to 19 minutes and 30 seconds?
Yes.
Okay, so here is
Should
19,
be right about there.
19 minutes and 30 seconds. I'll go to 1914.
period of about a year and a half. And at the end of that, I did truly feel that, okay, well, I think in the ways that in my limited ability as a teenager to investigate these things, I think that Christianity is true. But it wasn't until I went to university where I was engaging with people of other faith perspectives in Toronto at York University, where I was talking to Muslims and Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses and atheists, run the gamut.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. Atheists and Mormons, they're all just as threatening to the true Jesus. But we'll keep going.
I was having these conversations and I was expressing kind of my perspective on what I believed. And they would say things like, well, that sounds great, Wes, but, that's all the Bible. You can't trust that. And so that's where I started to take the...
Do Mormons say that to you?
Well,
'Cause
yes.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, in the sense that,
The Mormon one is the craziest one.
Yeah,
Because
I-
we know who wrote it.
Yeah.
And he's a shady dude.
he is a shady dude.
Yeah, it's not
well,
it's
no,
not
they did-
crazy if we have no frickin' clue who wrote it. Yeah, that's perfectly. Yeah, let's believe in a book we have no dang clue who wrote. But if we know who wrote it, oh, that's just crazy. Yeah. We like believing in the great gray stuff. If it's black and white photos, then they're vintage. But color photos, those aren't cool. Yeah,
Also, they
okay.
can never explain it. And this is what bothers me is these same guys always flood our comment section saying, well, there's no archaeological or geological evidence of the Book of Mormon. There's none. And it's just pure scoffery. Meanwhile, I get together with Josh Gailey, archaeologist from Penn State University, the most prestigious archaeology program in North America, some would argue, who brings the receipts on 2,000 years worth of rainfall stats coming out of caves in Belize, from the stalactites, and from whatever isotope they're measuring, all right? Being able to pinpoint a 3.5-year drought and famine that perfectly coincides in the exact same time, in the exact same place as the Book of Mormon would have taken place during the 3.5-year famine that Nephi the prophet ushered in. We literally have tighter, harder, better geological evidence of Nephi's prophesied famine in the Book of Mormon at this point than we do what locations Alexander the Great actually made it to. Yet you're allowed to believe anything about Alexander the Great, right? Any dissertation you want about Alexander the Great. But the second you show stalactite data talking about, I don't know, possibilities, you don't even have to make commitments, just possibilities that the Book of Mormon might be true. They say, oh, but there's no evidence. And they build this barrier of scoffery where they never actually have to answer questions. And the frustrating part is I'm not frustrated about that. People have their defense mechanisms and their tribes, but
It's a defense mechanism, though. That's well put. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah, people have their defense mechanisms and their tribes. But Wes Huff, don't you dare decry the atheists do it to you.
Right.
Don't you dare decry the atheists do it to you. If it's exactly what you do to members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, other
Amen.
Abrahamic religions, and all the other people that you threw in the exact same bin together.
Yeah. Now, we actually have here in the Discord for everybody, it's not the very last thing, it's the kind of it's a clip card. And so if you can pull that up, there's probably an ad at the beginning of it. It should be queued up to about 51 seconds.
Okay.
This is actually a clip of Protestant exaltation right here. This is Creedist exaltation.
What
that
is
we can
this,
watch
Jonah?
right
What
here.
is this?
This is what Wes Huff believes happens when you go to heaven. So we can actually watch this happen in real time. It's beautiful. It's a glorious thing.
What are you saying, Jonah?
What? This is Protestant exaltation.
Hey, you know what? Actually, you guys, you
It's
know
the
what?
clip. Can you see the clip?
Hold on. Quaker's asking
You know what
something.
L. Ron Hubbard wrote about like the Scientology's version of hell? It's terrifying. That effectively, if you're just a horrible person throughout the millions and millions of lives you live and everything, you get banished to the darkest corner of the universe. And in isolation and in misery, your spirit physicalizes into a rock, and you slowly lose consciousness, and your whole being turns into a space rock that'll eventually be just burst into smithereens, and you completely stop existing in consciousness and spirit and in mind.
Wow.
Wow. All right.
Complete, surrounded by total nothingness, blackness.
Okay,
And
well,
you
so
slowly witness yourself non-existing.
but here's the thing though. Did Benedict Cumberbatch do it to you? Because if Benedict Cumberbatch did it to you, then maybe it wasn't
is
so
this?
bad. It's some Marvel
Quaker,
movie.
come on. You're a huge Marvel
So,
fan. Don't pretend.
I stopped paying attention after years ago. They brought me to that one with the space ogre who snapped, and I had to watch that awful movie. And every actor in Hollywood is in it, and Chris Pratt's in it, and Zoe Saldana, and it's like, this is not like, why is everyone in Hollywood in this movie fighting lizard people?
That's fine.
Methinks he doth protest too much. I think Quaku is a huge Marvel fan.
Okay, we got a couple of super chats I'm going to read really fast.
I will watch the new Superman movie.
See?
Because everyone,
See?
the trailer went viral. Everyone's like, it's a new Superman movie. I'm like, they're trying it the 9th time in 20 years. Let's see what happens.
So Jonah Barnes for President 2028 says Devin Glenn. Also, we've got a new member of the Ward Radio Wigwam. Would you like to do your due diligence, Jonah, and welcome Nate Dogg?
Oh my goodness. We have just received the records of Brother Dogg, who just moved into the boundaries of the Ward Radio Worship. All those who would like to welcome Brother Dogg into the Ward, please do so by putting a W in the chat. All those opposed, go pound sand. we're glad to have Brother Duncan here. So
So we're going to keep going with this clip, and then we're already into overtime. We're going to have to end this pretty soon. Please send us your super chats here. If you have any questions that are relevant and germane, we're going to do our best to read them. If you have any pushback on some of our analysis here, as you can tell, we're salty because we've been dealing with this for a while. If you want to talk us down from the ledge, we'll
I'm
gladly
definitely
take
the
it.
straight man in this one.
Yeah, you're definitely
with three non.
That's funny. So the clip continues.
In the sense that the Book of Mormon trumps the Bible. So they would believe, I think it's the 10th article of the Mormon Church, is that they believe the Bible insofar as it is translated. And so they...
No!
Guys, wrong about everything.
What does it mean to believe the Bible insofar as it is translated? I don't even know what that sentence means.
We don't believe the stuff that remains in original Koine Greek. That stuff we don't believe.
So look, we believe the Bible to be the word of God as long as it is translated correctly. And they love mocking this. They take this small, obscure phrase that doesn't really... I don't want to say doesn't matter, but they take this small obscure phrase and they try and blow it out of proportion to something it's not. We believe the Bible to be the word of God as long as it is translated correctly, because we recognize translation matters. And then these people want to mock it, saying that that's some kind of gaffe, and then do their dissertation on a 15th translation of the Bible. Listen to these guys. Ask them, what's the best translation? Oh, NKJV, NIV, ESV.
That's actually one of his big thrusts, is like talking about the different Bible translations and comparing them and how they work and all that kind of stuff.
Isn't that what his PhD is in?
It seems to be something along those lines. That's like all his infographics or that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But try mocking anything else.
Which is interesting.
I'm willing to
because...
Wait, Kwaku, go.
I'm willing to take your medicine as long as it's administered correctly. Whoa! How wacky! It's how it should be.
That's actually a really good point, Kwaku. Okay, Luke, you were saying.
What he doesn't know, I'm almost sure he doesn't know this, is Joseph Smith was actually at the forefront of this idea that the Bible doesn't come exactly word for word perfectly from the mouth of God and you can't touch it whatsoever. He was one of the first people to say, okay, there was translation involved. There's different, he didn't explicitly say this, but kind of these new ideas that were coming out of, there's different manuscripts, there's different translations, and yes, we can rely on it and it's scripture, but at the same time, there's some nuance to, does the fact, I just got into a Twitter argument with a guy, and he tried to use the fact that in one verse that I was comparing to another verse, it said beside in one of the verses, and the other verse said besides with an S. So therefore, we know that they're different. Now, then you go to the ESV, and they both say beside. There's not an S in one and not. It was just a translation decision. So Joseph Smith, point being, Joseph Smith was one of the first people that kind of was at the forefront. There were some guys in Germany, and Richard Bushman talked about this. You can read it in Rough Stone Rolling if you're interested in that, Wesley. He's an academic, so you can trust him. But yeah, Joseph Smith was at the head of that. The newer idea of the Bible, that's more of the modern way that even Orthodox Christians see it today.
How about this?
Don't be bashing on it, dude.
How about this? Joseph Smith correctly predicted Dr. Martin Note's theory of the Deuteronomistic history retroscriptive interpolation 110 years before Dr. Martin Note discovered it. That was a lot of words, okay? Essentially, Joseph Smith knew that a section of the Bible was a later insertion 100 years before anybody knew it. Look it up, Wes. Look it up, okay?
Well, also, one thing I want to point out before we go, and I'm going to put this on the screen just so everybody can see it. A week ago or so, Wes Huff appeared on another podcast with a guy by the name of Julian Dory. And it's kind of funny. He's in front of this, I think it's a green screen that makes it look like the red curtains like the old Joe Rogan Experience used to be, but he's a cool guy. He seems like he'd actually be a ton of fun to hang out with. And he's friends with Danny Jones, personally friends with Danny Jones, which was the podcast that had Dan McClellan on. If you watch this podcast that he did with Wes Huff literally decries the fact that there's too many translations into English. He literally says there actually needs to be more translations into other languages. Other languages don't have the same opportunities we have at multiple translations. Like there's actually plenty of translations into English. So the same guy that's trying to mock us for having an article of faith saying that we believe the Bible to be the word of God as long as it is translated correctly is now on another podcast saying enough translations already, enough translations. It is literally the height of hypocrisy, and good art gets better the more you study it. The only definition of good art that I felt has ever carried water was I was in college, and I wish I could remember the literature teacher that told it to me, but she said the best definition she had heard was that good art is the kind of art that inspires more reverence and gets better the more you study it. That's good art. Okay. And she gave examples of how you can study the Mona Lisa and it gets even more rich and enriching and so on and so forth. All right. Well, I believe that bad art, the more you study it, the less it holds up over time. If Joseph Smith was a con man, the Book of Mormon would look worse and worse instead of better and better over time. Okay. And also, if you were not a fake authority, okay, or at least fakely claiming to be an authority on the subject, okay, then as I scrutinized your opinion on Mormonism, it would look better and better over time. But you don't get a mock translation and then end up going on other podcasts as I study you more, Wes, and then say, oh, no, we have too much translations. You're sounding a lot more like Joseph Smith and not against Joseph Smith. If you're saying, we believe the Bible to be the word of God, as long as it's translated correctly. You can't decry the translation of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Because what are you decrying? Oh, the fact that it's translated correctly. And then they always like coming back and saying, oh, yeah, but the Joseph Smith translation. Dude, look, that's at best a commentary, kind of similar to Wesley's commentary, all right? This was never canonized scripture by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We never forced it to be read from the pulpit, okay? We reverence everything that Joseph Smith had to say and write. And, we believe he was a modern prophet, just like Jews love their Moses. We love our, Joseph Smith, but it's all about Jesus. It's all about God. So we show it respect. But don't you dare say that we actually think basically a commentary is the word of God. Wesley didn't do that about his commentary. John MacArthur didn't do that about his commentary. You love your Baptists. You wouldn't say that about John MacArthur, so don't say it about Joseph Smith. All right, we continue. Anybody else got anything else to say before we go back?
I just want to say one thing to compare these things, just so that we're all aware, okay? Man, I just don't trust anybody with a PhD. That's kind of become my motto. I just don't trust anybody with a PhD. But even early Christians, which Wes Huff is supposed to be an expert on, Justin Martyr, okay, said this in chapter. You can look this up. Chapter 8 of Antiquity, Inspiration, and Harmony of Christian Teachers. This is Justin Martyr in the Ante-Nicene Fathers, Volume 1. You can go look this up. He says, talking about Christianity. How do you know Christianity? He says, by neither nature nor by human conception is it possible for men to know things great and divine, but by the gift which then descended from above upon holy men who had no need of rhetorical art. They had no need of a PhD, nor of uttering anything in a contentious or quarrelsome manner, but to present themselves pure to the energy of the divine spirit, in order that the divine plectrum itself, descending from heaven and using righteous men as an instrument, like a harp or lyre, might reveal to us the knowledge of things divine and heavenly. What he's saying is Joseph Smith wasn't educated. He didn't have a PhD. He was pure God's vessel, just like every prophet that you purport to believe in the Bible. None of these guys were Hebraists or linguists or great PhDs. They were pure men that the Lord chose to be his vessel. And Joseph Smith learned more about heaven staring 5 seconds into it than all y'all learn with all your PhDs from all your fake divinity schools or theology schools. Joseph Smith knew more because he was like a harp or a lyre that the Lord played on.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Also, Jordan Tanner says, at Word Radio, Joseph Smith translation is canonized, Book of Mormon. Yes, I know. Progmos will always defend the anti-Mormons. I'm aware, Jordan. And yes, you caught me. Technically, one could technically say that because a lot of the Joseph Smith translation was originally chapters that were published in the Times and Seasons, and some of those parts that were published, I'm not even remembering all the history of this correctly.
Well, it was actually more that Emma Smith had all the copies, and she didn't like Brigham Young very much. And so they wound up with Joseph Smith III and were copyrighted
Well, yes.
by his church rather than our church.
But here's the difference. When the evangelical translators go to mock the Joseph Smith translation, they're not mocking the translation of the book of Moses because they're not doing the comparison to the Greek. What they're doing is they're taking the original manuscripts of Matthew, taking the part of the Joseph Smith translation that's the commentary on Matthew, and then saying, look at this translation, it's horrible. He said, judge ye not unrighteously. And in the original manuscripts, there's no unrighteously, when in reality, Joseph Smith was saying, this is what God intended. He didn't say do not judge. He said do not judge unrighteously.
And we don't even have the same definition of the word canon. If somebody's watching this, you're not a member of the church, we don't even have the same definition of the word canon. When you look at the LDS canon, that is not the same thing as a Christian's canon or Islam's canon. We do not even have the same words. We do not believe that the gospel can be contained in any book. Okay. The beauty of the Book of Mormon is that it gave us living prophets. It proved a living prophet was still on the earth. So we don't bash in our congregations. We don't splinter into 44,000 different denominations because we're arguing about this verse and this translation and this interpretation of that verse. We don't do that because canon isn't God to us. Remember, Martin Luther said the Bible is God incarnate. Okay, that's ludicrous. Okay, we don't believe that garbage. There's no text that is God incarnate. God incarnate's name is actually Jesus Christ. So we don't subscribe to that canonicity thing. So when we use the word canon, it's not even the same thing.
Okay, so we got to wrap this up here. I'm going to let him go. Quake, you got anything to say, my man? Anything to say? Or we're going to play the clip? No? Okay, yeah. Cool. So here we go back to browser/reaction. Man, I have so many clips of this guy up. I hope it's this one, and I hope I'm in the right spot. Go.
They have this perspective that there's been things that have been affected. I mean, Joseph Smith made his own translation of the Bible, and it's rough.
And when he was 14.
Yeah. Well, I think it was later on that
there it was. He made his own translation of the Bible. Ooh, it's rough. My translation with my PhD is so much better. Again, they're referencing these commentary sections, and this is a misrepresentation of the facts. This is fake experts with fake news. And
he's going to show that he doesn't quite know what he's talking about in like 5 seconds here.
Okay, here we go.
And
if we didn't know already.
Because he did 5 seconds ago. He's going to do it again, you mean?
Yes.
Every 5 seconds? He's going to do it?
Okay, here we go.
2 times every 5 seconds.
Well, no, they did in the sense that the Book of Mormon trumps the Bible. So they would believe, I think it's the 10th article of the Mormon Church, is that they believe the Bible insofar as it is translated. And so they have this perspective that there's been things that have been affected. I mean, Joseph Smith made his own translation of the Bible, and it's rough.
And when he was 14.
Yeah. Well, I think it was later on that he made the Joseph Smith translation, but
really?
I don't even know if the official LDS Church ascribes to the Joseph Smith translation, because I think they even see this is, we know what the Greek and the Hebrew looks like, and this is not even
okay.
Yeah.
Well, he was
as has been pointed out already.
Sorry for this guy.
As has been pointed out already, the Book of Moses has been in our canon for a long time, and that's kind of what sparked, or is a big part of the Bible, Joseph Smith Bible translation. By the way, that's we don't.
It's not
have
the Bible
the originals
translation.
for
That's
Genesis.
Yeah.
That it's coming from, so there's not even anything to compare it to. So yeah, right. What Cardin's saying is he's talking about like in John 1:1 when Joseph Smith. But the thing is, I looked around for this. I checked before we did this episode. There wasn't ever like a Joseph Smith saying, "Okay, now I've got like the revelation of what the first person actually wrote down." Joseph Smith actually went and changed his own revelations in the Doctrine and Covenants to what Jonah was saying. We don't have this idea of like this pure kind of Muhammad. They say Joseph Smith's like Muhammad a lot. No. The Muslims have like this very, Muhammad got it directly from God, and the Quran actually kind of is God in some respects. And we are even kind of hesitant to translate it into other languages because of how pure it is. You can't even do anything disrespectful to the book itself. We don't have that at all. Joseph Smith was going back and changing his own revelations. Obviously, Joseph Smith knew that he was not representing his revelations the way that they were originally given to him. Obviously, he knew that. So it's not like he took the same approach to the Bible of like this, I'm going to go back and pull out what the very first person wrote down when they wrote down the Bible. That just wasn't his conception.
No.
Even Brigham Young said, I think if Joseph Smith translated and did the Book of Mormon again, it would come out differently.
So I feel
so the whole Latter-day Saint Church had this idea of we can always improve upon, not necessarily completely change, but always improve upon and see better ways to express the scripture that we have been given. And that's a lot of what he did with the Bible.
I feel bad.
What he did.
Like, I think what happens is Joe Rogan invites you, and we should try this, Cardin. And then he just gets you a little sloshed. He gives you a little bit of, they do a little of that, and then they smoke a little weed or whatever, and then in like the third hour they start just like woo, they start going off, and that's when he's like,
I don't think he needs booze to be this anti-Mormon. So let's let him finish. Let's let him finish here.
I feel so bad for this guy.
This was actually 18 minutes in, Jonah. They hadn't even gotten crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so Devin Glenn says, search for the clip, Joe Rogan Mormon Cult. He actually speaks very highly of us. Careful, it might have swear words. I can't remember. Yeah, I've heard him say plenty of things that are kind enough towards Mormons. My personal taste says we should all go and comment on the JRE podcast that they have a scholar like Robert Boylan, Stephen Smoot, or Ben Spackman on to actually discuss our faith. I think that's very true. And we always encourage people to positively engage. We would never encourage anybody to negatively engage. But
hashtag send Kwaku. Hashtag send Kwaku.
Yeah, Kwaku. Okay? Would you go to the Joe Rogan podcast, bro?
Yeah.
Joe, you want an entertaining show? You bring Kwaku, okay? Don't bring any of us.
Oh, that would go
Kwaku
viral.
Down. Yeah,
I would have some things to say, sir.
Hashtag send Kwaku.
Kwaku, just don't. You're giving me a heart attack just thinking about you going on Joe Rogan. And just be like, did you know the founding fathers? Take out your dollar bill. What does it say in Latin on the dollar bill, man? These weren't good people. These weren't good people.
Look, if Billy Carson's career is going away, somebody needs to replace him.
Oh, they did a hit piece on him. Yeah.
Somebody needs to replace Billy Carson. I could do it.
Okay, so here's the last of the script. Before we nominate Kwaku L as our champion to replace Billy Carson in the zeitgeist of Christian esotericism.
Legitimate con man. Which is fascinating. That people have such a deep search for meaning and truth that if you are confident, and which is what a con man is, confidence man. If you are really good at expressing yourself and really you show confidence in your convictions, you can.
How could you not say that about the Apostle Paul? Atheists say the exact same thing about the Apostle Paul when they're mocking Christians, that this was all just a first century con, that Jesus Christ was invented by early Christians to justify their religious zealotry, that there's no proof of the resurrection, there's no proof of any of this crap, there's no historical Jesus, you're stupid if you believe. And then this guy comes out and he says, nope, you're stupid if you don't believe the creeds.
Well, so I think what they're saying when they say con man is one time he was doing the same thing that a lot of other people in his area and contacts were doing. Oh, and by the way, God chastised him for doing that thing. I think that's what the treasure digging. I think that's what they were talking about. If we look more at a little bit of a larger pattern than what Joseph Smith was doing when he was 20 years old that a lot of other people were doing at the time, when you zoom out a little bit, you see Joseph Smith acting in ways that don't necessarily line up with con man. For example, multiple times he sends part of the church away from himself, so he doesn't have control over it. He appoints somebody else. If this is an egomaniac con man who's in it for himself and it's all about him and getting him power, fame, wealth, sex, whatever, he's sending this whole half of the church away from himself on another leader, unsupervised, to go and do their thing and build Zion. The dude never has a nice house to live in. He's always letting other people stay with himself. He never gets rich and wealthy, even though he has a lot of capital at his command because they're able to build not one, but 1.5, 1 3/4 awesome, beautiful temples in kind of the middle of nowhere. I just went to Kirtland with Jacob Hansen. It's still kind of in the middle of nowhere. That could have been his mansion, but instead he lived at the little house down the hill across from the cemetery, and the beautiful house is for the general church membership. And then he's forgiving all these people. You look at his story with W.W. Phelps, who was saying all these nasty things about him. got to get that guy away from me. No, once W.W. Phelps came around, Joseph Smith was like, yep, come on back, brother. It's all good. It's all good. Sylvester Smith, they got into a heated argument in Zion's Marsh with Sylvester Smith. Joseph Smith, he was like, I'm going to shoot your dog. Like, God is going to strike you down, like, make you sick. 6 months later, he appoints him to the Quorum of the 12.
Yeah.
And so he's
nothing like
he
a
had
con
some
man.
pride.
He's nothing like a con man.
Yeah, he had kind of like that American individualism pride to him. Granted, totally yes, but he definitely wasn't an egomaniac or
Let's
all in it for
consider
himself. Everything's going to come to me. I'm going to get everything. I'm like this con man. That's like, if anything, he was, and Fawn Brody was kind of more in like this. He's just deluded and gosh, what's his name? The one you don't like, Dan Vogel, like the people who don't like Joseph Smith and actually look at this kind of are more in like he was deluded about what he was doing type of camp. More so, I'm sure they kind of go the con man route a little bit, but they don't fully go on it because the fact is the evidence just isn't really there. And Wesley
Luke,
doesn't know that.
Luke, I'm going to do a little, see if you can tell who I am.
Dan Vogel.
Actually, so what this dude, so think of the self-own this is, right? Did they realize? You think Joseph Smith, this uneducated farm kid, was just a con man? Consider the self-own, all right? 18 million of y'all's congregants were so tired of your sitting up on a lectern, right, and talking down to us all with your sheepskins in the background about this new translation. These guys are rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, and Joseph comes up and just steers the boat away from the iceberg, right, and fixes the holes in the Bible, and you all freak out and say, oh, he's just a con man who siphoned away 18 million of your believers, the pick and flower of England. Like, what kind of a self-own is this to say, oh, he doesn't even know what he's doing? It's like some guy comes down out of the bleachers in an NFL game and throws an award-winning game-winning pass, or like shuffles through.
It's like when Hillary Clinton calls half of America the deplorables.
And
the
like,
deplorables
like,
just beat your party.
He's not even a professional player. And you're like, so y'all got schooled by a non-professional player? Like, Joseph Smith outdid all of you theologians. He had 2,000 years, and he smacked you around in like a minute with one glance into heaven. And all you can say is, well, he's like a con man. Like, well, fine. I'll take his con and his cult any day over you.
Well, and like, if you apply the same thing to other people in the Bible, like, oh, Moses, he's a shady dude. Like, he just got a lot of people to follow him around in a desert after killing a guy. Did you hear he killed a guy?
I heard he killed a guy.
Yeah, and he was like just really getting on the Israelites' case all the time and said he was going to hold with food from them if they didn't like. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to finish this clip.
Controlled where they lived. He was like, no, you're that guy's brother, so you have to live on that side. I'm like, yeah, Moses was just he was a weird dude, man. Like,
okay.
It's like, okay.
I'm gonna play this clip, let him finish, and then we're already into overtime. I'm getting exhausted emotionally
We're
about
going all
this.
night, Carden. We're not stopping.
Okay, I'm gonna let him finish.
3 more
Here
hours
we go.
to this, Carden.
And then Kwaku, I need you on this one. Help me home, brother. Help me home.
Joseph Smith made his own translation of the Bible, and it's rough.
And when he was 14. Yeah.
Well, I think it was later on that he made the Joseph Smith translation, but
really?
I don't even know if the official LDS Church ascribes to the Joseph Smith translation, because I think they even see this is, we know what the Greek and the Hebrew looks like, and this is not even. Yeah.
Well, he was legitimate con man. Yeah, which is fascinating. That it's people have such a deep search for meaning and truth that if you are confident, and which is what a con man is, confidence man.
You're stupid if you believe.
If you are really good at expressing yourself and really you show confidence in your convictions, you can persuade a lot of people.
Yeah, confidence is not competency.
Yes.
And unfortunately, those things get confused a lot. Like,
kind of like the guy that can't even say the articles of faith, the King Follett discourse or the King Follett discourse, the guy that can't pronounce anything properly about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is laughing about the difference between competency and confidence. Look, you're yoked and you're handsome, Wes. Let's let him finish.
Well, he covers up for competency sometimes.
Yeah. In religion and politics and like all sorts of things, right?
And everything.
In Joe Rogan podcast.
Joe Rogan podcast.
I think because people want to.
You know what's
like,
annoying
it's
though?
very
What's funny about this is he's having a laugh with Wes about this, and it's like Wes is like, "Yeah, we both agree." Wes, Joe doesn't think Jesus rose from the dead. He thinks you're kooky.
right.
like the minute you leave, he's like, "This guy really thinks a guy walked in water and made it out of a crucifixion? That guy's a loony bin." Like, God, it's like they just.
Yes,
He just thinks our cult is younger. That's all. He thinks you're in a cult too, Wes. He just thinks our cult is younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So-
How much more time is on this clip, Luke? Like 30 more seconds?
I think
Here we go.
no, really the
Difficult.
golden part was where he was like, yeah, I mean, if you're confident, people just like believe anything you say, man. It's like,
Okay, last
yeah,
10
ironic.
seconds.
We know.
Last 10 seconds right here. Last 10 seconds. Let's see what he has to say if he mocks us one last time.
be an expert in a subject, and I think people want to believe that they are, and they don't want to do the work.
Right.
You know?
Oh, but these guys for sure have done the work. They've done the work, and by do the work, we mean what? The Bible, Wes and Joe, says needs to be simple that it, whatever, what's the phrase again,
Explain
Joe?
to the plowboy.
Exactly. You should be able. Einstein himself said that if you can't explain it to a fifth grader, you don't understand it yourself. And the Bible says it should be able to be explained to the plowboy. And in the Doctrine and Covenants, it says, by small and simple things are great things brought to pass. The humility of simplicity is part of what makes us think it is true, not lesser. It's what makes us think that it is exalted, not inferior. Okay? So, all right.
He says, so one last thing that I'll say. If you don't know, so Joseph Smith one day sat down December 1st, 1830. We know when it was. This is within months of the Book of Mormon coming out. Sits down with his wife, Emma Smith, in a home in Harmony, Pennsylvania. And he says, I'm getting a revelation. He reveals a thing called the revelation concerning Adam. Okay. This revelation goes on to be chapters 6, 7, 5, 6, and 7 of the Book of Moses that we have now. Okay. He reveals this thing with nothing. He doesn't have the Hebrew Bible in front of him, the Greek Bible in front of him. He doesn't have the English Bible in front of him. He just starts talking. Okay. He recites the first several chapters of Genesis and then the entire book of Enoch. Okay. Which is 75. It's like almost, I thought it was 2,600 words long. He just goes, boom. What Genesis had in 2 verses, he expands to 75 verses. Okay. And he just does this of flowing. And Emma's just trying to keep up with the dictation. In that book of Enoch, which you can read thousands of pages upon that Dr. Hugh Nibley has analyzed, within that book of Enoch, he impossibly harmonizes and coordinates with 5 other books of Enoch that were yet undiscovered at that time. Not until a century later do we discover some of these things. He does it with no notes. He does it with no help. And that's the rough Bible translation that you're talking about. This makes people like Matthew Black, original translator of the Dead Sea Scrolls, stop in his tracks and say, there's no possible way he could have done this. There must be something else to the story. Spoiler alert, there's nothing else to the story. This makes people like Dr. Townsend at University of Chicago stop and say, there must have been something else to this. It's impossible he could have dictated this text. Spoiler alert, there was nothing else, okay? And Joseph Smith did all that. Now, Wes doesn't appreciate any of that. He doesn't appreciate any of that because he's a creedist, he's a tribalist, all right? He just dismisses that. Joseph Smith was a prophet, and he had more knowledge in his little finger than all of these sheepskins put together. He was the type of person that God poured his music upon like a lyre, like plucking a plectrum, like Justin Martyr says. The foolishness of God is wiser than the wisdom of the world. And this guy thinks the wisdom of the world is going to somehow exonerate his Christianity and make people like Joe Rogan stop thinking he's in a cult. Newsflash, you're in a cult. You're in the same cult that we're in. It's a cult started by a man, Jesus Christ, back in 30 AD. So we're brothers. See you. Thanks.
And this is the last thing I will say about Wes Huff and the academic approach to the Bible, which actually I love. I mean, if I could go back to school right now, I would learn Greek and I would dive into the original manuscripts, right? And I would do the exact same thing Wes Huff is doing. All right, get my PhD in, Near Eastern studies or in, classical translation of, I don't know what the exact title is here, but I've studied Wes Huff as much as you can over the past week since he's kind of rose to prominence. And he talks a lot about, historians needing to, I think the correct phrase is like inference to the simplest or the best explanation, right? And what you just described, Jonah, him being a simple con man is not the inference to the simplest explanation. Right. If you apply ethically, classically trained historians' ethics and rubric, Joseph Smith is not a con man. He's not even what did Dan Vogel call him? A pious fraud. Guess
fraud.
what?
Yeah.
Neither are the apostles. Okay? You can't apply the criterion of embarrassment, which he solicits in multiple podcasts, in order to prove the resurrection of Jesus, the religiously sincere authenticity of the apostles, so on and so forth. You can't be using the inference to the simplest explanation. You can't be using the criterion of embarrassment to argue against the atheists against the veracity of the Bible and then turn around and do the exact same thing to the Book of Mormon. Not only is it just cruel, you're a jerk, not only is it hypocritical, which is annoying, it's not Christ-like, and I don't say that in the stupid progressive way to leverage your humanity against you. I say either don't call yourself a Christian or don't call yourself an expert, because one of those things has to go with what you've said. So, Luke and Quaker, you got anything else here before I start wrapping this cheese up? Any thoughts coming to mind before we end here?
Guys, make me the next Billy Carson. I got some wild ideas. I got a new theory on leprechauns and how they relate to Judas. I got some sea moss I want to sell.
Kwaku.
And I figured out how to cure obesity by astrology.
Obesity by astrology.
Dude, you didn't figure that out. Trump figured that out years ago.
Oh, that's funny. Luke, you're our last thought, man. You're our last thought.
Melania? Is that the Trump you're talking about? Because the Trump I'm thinking of, he is not solved the riddle.
He did not.
Speaking of, though, Alex Jones looks good. Have you guys seen Alex Jones?
Really?
He lost a lot of weight. He looks like a Chad.
Really? I got to look this up.
Look up Alex Jones 2025. Just look it up. He looks like Gerard Butler. It's like, whoa.
Really?
No kidding.
Is he in his, not his villain era, is he in his revenge body? So Alex Jones 2025, like this right here? What's the most recent article? I'm pulling this up right now. So
You're going to go to Google Images. Oh, yeah. Alex Jones, weight loss 2025. Type that in.
Okay. Alex Jones, weight loss. Actually, I better not be doing this on screen.
Wait. I got something.
Oh, you got something?
You're right.
The
link.
No.
Wow, you're right. He did. He
put in the
slimmed.
Discord.
All right, it's in the Discord.
It's, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. Visit site. Dude. Look
that looks good.
Is that AI?
No, that's Alex Jones. It was like on his live stream. This is what he looks like now.
Jeez Louise. He looks 20 years younger.
You know
Holy
what?
smokes.
And
I
$1
hate to
billion
say it, he had a really nasty public divorce and lost a bunch of his money in the courts. And he came out of a divorce and bankruptcy looking better.
Dude,
that's
there's a Sunday school lesson here. Chat, the first person that uses a picture of Alex Jones as an example of overcoming adversity and throws in that Lehi scripture and has a before and after picture of Alex Jones as the first person to pull that off gets a free beanie from the Ward Radio
that's where he
wigwam.
was storing. That's where he was storing that $1 billion. It was in his shirt. It was in his,
Yeah.
And now he got defamation and I got rid of it.
Like
Just
a
weight
fat
loss.
suit on a plane. We used to put money
Yeah.
in the fat suits on the plane. Okay.
Great idea.
So, Luke, any last words before we go? Cool-headed Luke.
Yes. I remembered what I was going to say before that divergence. Wes, you seem like a cool dude. I dig your graphics. They look pretty cool. They look pretty informative. But just make sure you don't get hubris. It can affect all of us. We do it sometimes at Word Radio too, put our foot in the mouth. So just Jonah. Oh, well,
No,
Jonah doesn't.
it's never
Jonah doesn't.
happened.
I do.
It's never
I do.
happened.
Cardin and me do. Okay.
Give one example. I'm
So,
joking. Don't give it.
Yeah, you are invited to look into this more, research it more, get better arguments, and attack the church with those better arguments whenever you feel like it.
Yeah.
So that's how I end.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Guys, in the Ward Radio merch store, we got shirts available. If you guys want to be able to support the channel, make sure you go to wardradio.com, check out the merch store, and buy a shirt. We also got more of the War in Heaven veteran hats available. Those flew off the shelves during the Christmas season, but there's a whole new batch that is available in 2025, and we can send one your way. Just go to the Ward Radio Wigwam, and we'll hook you up there. Also, check out Jonah's book, Key to the Keystone. Do you happen to have a book that you can show to the audience nearby, Jonah? Key to the Keystone.
This book right here.
The New Testament for Gen Z. Yeah, no.
Very important book. It's excellent by Broseph Smith.
That's
fantastic.
funny.
This is Joseph Smith's translation that that he's referring to.
Yeah, I'm
in
sure.
The podcast.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Check out his book. Also, if you want to see what Luke is writing, check out Ward Radio News. Got a great article that came out today. And if you want to see what's Quake was up to, follow him on Twitter or go to his parties in Utah, his super spreader events. You know?
Oh yeah,
super spreader events, young and dumb, without the vowels. You got to check them out there. Either way, for this and more, no, it's been real and it's been fun, and it's been real fun. For this and more, please make sure that you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon. This supersonic is amazing. You're gonna feel my sonic boom. I'm flying higher and I'm never coming down. Look at me now.